Jang Chun enters the battlefield with an F-rank talent and a student loan. Minutes later, his white hero token becomes gold legendary. He owns 10 farmers, 5 huts, and almost no defense. Rich heirs around him begin with rare troops and family fortunes. His hidden creation divine stone can strengthen almost any item. On awakening, it grants 3 upgrades completely free. Jang Chun spends the first on his cheapest hero token. The result is a legendary summon no rookie bloodline can match. Hours earlier, 10,000 rookie lords had gathered beneath a floating golden altar while Mayor Lawashi delivered the annual awakening speech. She reminded them that Zhu Yuanzhang once began with a white lord heart and an F-rank talent before becoming a legendary domain lord. The crowd answered with patriotic cheers. But Jang Chun found the example slightly unfair to everyone who had not founded a dynasty in another life. He knew that because he had already lived once before, then transmigrated into this world and spent 18 years growing up here. On Blue Star, adulthood for aspiring lords meant receiving a Lord Heart and entering the Myriad Races Battlefield to establish territory. Lord Hearts ranged from white through green, blue, purple, orange, and gold, with mythic quality existing somewhere beyond ordinary textbooks. The official message was that anyone could rise, but the reality was much simpler. Wealthy families bought better starting hearts, troops, heroes, and supplies. Jang Chun had been an orphan since birth, so every advantage money could purchase had started beyond his reach. He had even tried turning memories from his previous life into a business, hoping modern entertainment ideas would build enough capital for a strong start. That plan failed because productions in this world needed powerful lords, famous territories, and resources he did not have access to. After a year of hustling, his earnings were worse than his school scholarship, leaving him with one practical option. He took a student loan and bought the cheapest usable Lord Heart he could find, along with an F-rank entertainment talent. The talent was called Green Waters, Blue Mountains, and its grand contribution to warfare was making the territory environment 10% more pleasant. Jang Chun privately considered himself the first man to enter an interdimensional war armed with landscaping. Golden light swallowed the rookies, and he was transported into 7th Heaven Zone 666, Newbie Town 86. His starting territory contained 10 farmers, 5 crude huts a fence, and a level 0 Lord's Hall covering roughly 100 square meters. The farmers immediately dropped to the ground and hailed him as their lord, which felt excessive for someone who had financed his throne with student debt. Then the object that had remained silent inside his consciousness for 18 years finally moved. A rainbow-colored stone emerged from his forehead and identified itself as the Creation Divine Stone, the same mysterious object tied to his transmigration. Its function was brutally simple. Feed it spirit stones. Choose an upgrade path, and it could strengthen an item into something better. Even more important, the stone granted 3 free upgrades as a welcome gift, ignoring costs that could normally each reach millions of spirit stones. Jang Chun opened his starter inventory and found 2 miserable white-quality tokens, one for a hero and one for troops. The hero token displayed a complete ladder of upgrades, ending with gold legendary quality for 10 million spirit stones. 10 million was an absurd sum for a rookie, but the Creation Divine Stone showed 3 free upgrades remaining. Jang Chun did not hesitate long enough to regret it. He ordered the white hero token upgraded directly to gold legendary, and the entire territory erupted beneath a pillar of golden light. The farmers who had finally stood up immediately threw themselves back onto the ground, convinced they were witnessing a divine miracle. The plain token transformed into a gold medallion covered in intricate patterns, powerful enough to summon 1 legendary hero. There was only one problem: the token required a tavern, and Jang Chun did not even possess a level 1 territory yet. Upgrading the Lord's Hall required refined stone and refined wood, while every starting resource in his inventory was normal quality. Ordinary rookies would need troops, mines, lumber camp, and hours of gathering before producing the refined materials they needed. Jang Chun simply placed his hand on a rock and opened the Creation Divine Stone's upgrade menu. The stone offered everything from refined construction material to treasures so advanced that he stopped reading before the prices became offensive. He only needed the first step, and basic refined stone cost 1 spirit stone per unit. Within minutes, he converted enough starting material to satisfy the level 1 requirements and ordered the Lord's Hall upgraded. A 10-minute construction timer appeared, along with an option to pay 100 spirit stones for instant completion. Rich heirs treated instant construction as normal, but Jang Chun still remembered signing loan papers for his Lord Heart. He decided 10 minutes would not kill him, especially when nobody else in the zone could possibly have gathered the required resources yet. His communicator rang while the timer counted down, and the caller was Chuatia, a classmate he had known throughout high school. Chuatia was beautiful, cheerful, and born into one of the powerful lord families of EC City, making her everything Jang Chun was not financially. Her hologram appeared with a rare hero, human sharpshooters, and heavily armored wolf cavalry standing behind her. She had been inside the battlefield for barely 20 minutes and already commanded a small professional army. Chuadia happily told him they had entered the same newbie zone and called the coincidence fate. Jang Chun considered it provincial allocation statistics, but he let her enjoy the romantic interpretation. Her mother had purchased rare heroes and troop tokens before the transfer, and Chuadia offered to beat up anyone who bullied him. Jang Chun quietly looked at the legendary hero token in his inventory and decided explaining the situation would create more questions than answers. Instead, he accepted the offer vaguely while Chuatia moved on to the race for the first territory upgrade. The Heavenly Dao rewarded the first 100 lords to reach level 1, and past rookies considered finishing within a day an impressive pace. Chuatia announced that she was aiming for first place, then rushed off to search for resource nodes before Jang Chun could mention his remaining minutes. With time to kill, he opened Newbie Town 86's public channel and started studying the people who would eventually compete for mayor. Lieutenant Muingang was recruiting for the military, while Lin Mo of a noble family advertised generous contracts for vassal lords. Lin Mo specifically excluded entertainment lords, which made Jang Chun's F-rank profession feel personally targeted. Li Muja appeared soon after and immediately attached himself to Chuadia, behaving like a long-time intimate until she firmly told him to keep things formal. That public rejection mattered to Jang Chun because Li Muja had spent years treating him as romantic competition despite Jang Chun never joining the contest. Another newcomer, Ingman, drew far more attention because her surname connected her to the immortal Qin bloodline of Dragon Province. Even among nobles, a descendant linked to the first emperor's dynasty was a different category of background. Then Tu Sunya entered the channel asking for a city transfer token after accidentally spawning among human lords. She was a celestial fox, technically 10 years old but already an adult by her race's standards, which immediately caused half the channel to become embarrassingly helpful. Jang Chun watched military heirs, ancient clans nobles, fox spirit, and wealthy second-generation lords introduce themselves one after another. Against that lineup, the orphan with a landscaping talent looked exactly like the person nobody needed to watch. Lin Mo quickly pushed everyone back toward practical work, reminding them that the fastest level 1 upgrades would receive Heavenly Dao rewards. The Dao answered almost immediately with the official ranking prize list. First place would receive a rare treasure chest. 2nd through 10th would receive fine chests, and the remaining top 100 would receive normal chests. That first place reward was unusually generous for a newbie zone, which turned the resource race into an instant obsession. Jang Chun checked his timer and found a little over 5 minutes remaining. Everyone else was chopping trees, fighting over quarries, and calculating hours of labor, while he stood inside his fence with nothing to do but wait. The channel filled with speculation about which rich heir had brought the strongest starting package. Lieutenant Muingang admitted her best asset was a rare troop token, while Lin Mo refused to reveal everything his family had prepared. Li Muja repeatedly agreed with anything Chuatia said until Ingman mocked the province for producing both geniuses and obvious followers. Jang Chun laughed harder than he expected, partly because Li Muja had spent years acting threatened by someone with no family backing at all. Then a red system announcement silenced the jokes. Lord Wang Jiaming had been killed by a quarry demon less than half an hour after entering the battlefield. Jang Chun knew him from school, another ordinary student who had borrowed money to purchase his Lord Heart and chase the same opportunity. The death made the battlefield's rules painfully concrete. Losing here did not mean restarting, and poverty did not excuse a fatal mistake. The channel briefly dissolved into fear, with some rookies begging for a way home while Chuatia urged everyone to stop taking reckless risks. Jang Chun's timer continued falling in the background. When only a minute remained, people returned to arguing over first place and started trading private information about noble family preparations. Li Muja chose that exact moment to announce that he had captured a normal stone quarry and already built a mining station. The channel treated the achievement like a massive lead because most rookies had not secured their first stable resource point yet. Li Muja modestly accepted the praise while Jang Chun stared at a timer with only seconds left. Lin Mo then opened a betting pool for whoever reached level 1 first. Jang Chun almost wished he had known earlier, because betting on himself before anyone knew his progress would have produced absurd odds. The countdown reached 3 seconds while Li Muja was still celebrating the beginning of his mining operation. Then the Heavenly Dao turned the sky gold. Lord Jang Chun of Newbie Town 86 was announced as the first rookie to reach level 1. A rare treasure chest and 10 reputation points appeared as his reward, while the Lord's Hall completed and his territory expanded to 4,000 square meters. New construction options unlocked, including the smelting workshop, blacksmith, and most importantly, the tavern required by his legendary hero token. For 10 full seconds, the town channel contained nothing except stunned silence and walls of question marks. The result made no sense under ordinary progression because finding, securing, and harvesting enough refined resources should have taken hours. Li Muja reacted worse than everyone else because he recognized the name immediately. He announced Jang Chun's public records to the entire channel: White Lord Heart, F-rank entertainment talent, Green Waters, Blue Mountains, and commoner background. Instead of humiliating him, the information made the first place result even harder to explain. Theories multiplied instantly, and the most popular claimed Jang Chun had filled his inventory with recruitment orders and gambled everything on spawning beside resources. Tusan Ya praised the courage of such a reckless strategy, while Ingman observed that history only remembers the gamblers who survive. Jang Chun decided their fictional explanation was excellent and had no intention of correcting it. Far from Jang Chun's territory, Chuacha had been capturing a second resource point while privately imagining how satisfying first place would look in front of him. The golden announcement replaced that fantasy so suddenly that she reportedly stood still for nearly a minute before remembering the territory upgrade carried an automatic penalty. Every successful Lord's Hall promotion summoned a monster wave, meaning Jang Chun's impossible speed had also moved his first lethal test forward by hours. The public theory about recruitment orders now became a liability because people assumed he had sacrificed weapons, troop tokens, food, and defensive supplies for pure gathering speed. Several rookies connected the situation directly to Wang Jiaming's death and warned that record-setting progression meant nothing if the Lord died before claiming tomorrow's rewards. Li Muja turned that concern into self-satisfaction, arguing that reckless commoners always mistook one lucky opening for proof that consequences no longer applied to them. Chuatia replied so sharply that even the people who agreed with his tactical point stopped supporting the delivery, then demanded Jang Chun send coordinates for emergency reinforcements. Jang Chun never saw the incoming calls because the first-place announcement had filled his communicator with congratulations, recruitment offers, questions, and increasingly intrusive requests. He solved the problem by disabling almost every notification, unintentionally making Chuatia think he was too busy preparing for death to answer her. When he finally returned to the town channel, he did not explain the legendary token, the Divine Stone, or the construction schedule hidden behind his fence. He only said the rare treasure chest had already been opened, and the result was pretty good, then allowed hundreds of people to define pretty good for themselves. Some guessed a hero token, others guessed troops, scrolls, emergency barriers, or a one-use artifact strong enough to survive the coming wave. That uncertainty raised his apparent survival odds, without giving a single useful detail to anyone who might later attack him. Li Muja insisted the confidence would disappear once the monsters arrived, while Wei Ming tried calming both sides by noting that the Heavenly Tao would announce any death anyway. Jang Chun privately considered that one of the least comforting peacekeeping statements he had ever read, even if the information itself was technically correct. Inside the building menu, the difference between survival and disaster looked much less dramatic than the channel believed because his starting resources already covered a normal barracks. The barracks demanded 900 normal stone, 100 normal wood, and 100 energy, all quantities Jang Chun could satisfy without another expedition. The tavern was the real gate because it required refined construction material. Yet the Creation Divine Stone turned that requirement into a small spirit stone expense instead of hours of mining. Jang Chun completed the missing refined wood and stone, started both timers, and aligned them deliberately with the monster wave countdown, rather than paying for instant construction. 10 minutes for the barracks, 20 for the tavern, and 30 until invasion created a clean 10-minute margin after the legendary hero became available. That margin mattered more to Jang Chun than the entire channel's debate, because one legendary summon could change the wave from a threat into a resource event. The first-place rare chest itself showed an enhancement symbol, tempting him with the possibility of improving a reward before opening it. Jang Chun checked the price and immediately remembered that treasure chests contained random results, making expensive enhancement equivalent to paying premium rates for a better slot machine. 2 free upgrades remained at that moment, but spending either on uncertain loot would have been irrational, while a guaranteed legendary troop token still sat in his inventory. Reputation offered the opposite profile because its value was predictable, even if the reward source appeared later in the journey. Jang Chun knew special reputation halls could exchange points for items that ordinary markets rarely carried, including treasures approaching legendary quality. 10 reputation points therefore looked small, and only to rookies who had never studied how painfully slowly the currency accumulated outside ranking events. The mysterious cottage blueprint from the rare chest also fit Jang Chun's preference for long-term systems over one dramatic consumable reward. Its shelves would refresh every day, creating repeated access to unusual items purchasable with territory energy instead of requiring luck on the external market. The construction recipe required rare wood, rare stone, refined iron, and more energy than his level 1 economy could spare, so delaying it was a resource decision rather than disappointment. By the time the tavern timer entered its final minutes, Jang Chun had already assigned the barracks location, checked the fence, and verified that every farmer remained inside the territory boundary. The farmers understood almost none of the system math, but they understood the golden token their lord kept checking, and the fact that he showed no fear about the approaching attack. That calmness mattered because their starting loyalty was tied to survival expectations, and a terrified lord could have created panic before a single monster appeared. Jang Chun's own confidence was not blind. He had spent years studying battlefield textbooks, precisely because he knew poverty would never let him brute force mistakes with money. His original advantage before the Divine Stone awakened had been grades, preparation, and the willingness to calculate every mechanic rich classmates took for granted. The cheat did not replace that habit, and Jang Chun repeatedly chose the cheapest adequate upgrade instead of the highest tier, simply because a menu made it possible. That restraint was why he stopped at refined building material rather than converting early resources into rare or excellent quality with no immediate construction use. It was also why he waited through timers, when the saved spirit stones could buy permanent improvements elsewhere, even though wealthy heirs treated instant completion as normal convenience. Jang Chun's humor about being poor never changed the fact that every saved stone increased the number of future items his divine stone could strengthen. The coming monster wave would become the first test of whether that economic mindset could survive contact with actual battlefield violence. The rare chest had not provided an emergency army, despite what the town imagined, and the barracks had no time to recruit meaningful normal troops before the attack. Everything depended on the legendary hero token functioning exactly as the system promised once the tavern opened. Jang considered that acceptable, because the token's quality was guaranteed. The tavern requirement was satisfied, and every remaining uncertainty belonged to the identity of the summoned hero. He expected power but had no way to know whether the result would be a commander, mage, warrior, support specialist, or historical figure with conditions of her own. That uncertainty gave the final tavern seconds more tension than the monster countdown itself, because the wave was predictable while a gold legendary summon was not. When the building completed, Jang Chun did not waste time recruiting tavern visitors or inspecting cosmetic functions that could wait until after the attack. He went directly to the inventory, removed the transformed hero medallion, and activated the most valuable object anyone in Newbie Town 86 had seen that morning. The portal that answered was not connected to any hero name Jang Chun remembered from the Human Education Edition directory he had studied cover to cover. That absence would become his first clue that the Creation Divine Stone had not merely upgraded quality inside the normal summon pool. It had opened access to something outside the assumptions every other rookie was using to judge his ceiling. The celebration shifted when someone remembered that every territory upgrade automatically triggered a monster wave against the newly promoted lord. According to the theory the channel had invented, Jang Chun had spent his entire start on workers and resources instead of combat power. Shuadia immediately tried calling him again, convinced his record-setting upgrade had left him defenseless. Li Muja took the opposite position and treated the coming attack like proof that Jang Chun's supposed genius would get him killed. Jang Chun ignored both reactions because his real problem was construction timing, not monster strength. A barracks required only normal resources, while the tavern needed refined stone and refined wood he could create with the divine stone. He spent a small amount of spirit stones, completed the missing materials, and started both buildings. The barracks would finish in 10 minutes, the tavern in 20, and the monster wave would arrive after 30. That schedule gave him 10 comfortable minutes to summon a legendary hero before anything hostile reached the fence. Before the tavern completed, Jang Chun examined his first-place rewards rather than wasting another free upgrade on a random treasure chest. The 10 reputation points were especially valuable because reputation could later be exchanged through special halls for rewards normal rookies could not access. The rare chest itself was still gambling, so Jang Chun opened it without enhancement and received a rare building blueprint called Mysterious Cottage. The cottage functioned as a special shop with a rotating daily inventory purchasable through territory energy. It demanded rare materials and more energy than he currently possessed, so the blueprint went back into storage for later. Then the tavern finally completed on schedule. Jang Chun finally removed the gold legendary hero token he had created with his first free upgrade and activated the summit. Golden particles formed a bright portal, and a woman's silhouette slowly stepped through from a completely different world. She wore a Tang-style palace gown, carried the poise of a ruler, and looked at the unfamiliar battlefield with cold fascination rather than fear. The system identified her simply as the Empress, a level 1 legendary hero with 26 stars of combat power. Jang Chun had 6 stars at the same level, which made their relationship immediately awkward from a practical standpoint. Her skill list was worse for his ego. Heavenly sound techniques, sword art, spirit attack, and musical cultivation he could barely understand. She also carried access to personal troop buildings, including legendary 9 Heavens Holy Maidens and excellent Heavenly Sound Pavilion disciples. The Empress had not come from Blue Star's recorded human history, and she had never heard of the Myriad Races Battlefield before being summoned. From her own muttering, Jang Chun realized she had already reached the ceiling of strength in her original world. Here, killing enemies could provide energy for endless growth, giving her a new path toward the immortality she still wanted. That made her incredibly valuable, and also explained why her first assessment of Jang Chun was not flattering. She studied her new lord from head to toe and openly questioned whether someone so weak was qualified to command her. Her affection dropped from 70 to 60 before Jang Chun had even decided how to answer. Then Green Waters, Blue Mountains finally earned its first measurable victory when the pleasant territory environment restored 1 affection point. Jang Chun mentally thanked his landscaping talent for recovering 1/10 of the damage it had done nothing to cause. His school training had included a warning about powerful heroes. Never show panic to a subordinate who respected strength above status. So Jang Chun kept his voice calm and asked whether the hero he had just summoned was truly questioning her lord's qualifications. The confidence surprised her enough to add 2 affection points, proving that posture mattered even when the numbers did not. Jang Chun knew bluffing would not hold forever, but he still had the strongest demonstration possible sitting inside his inventory. He lifted the remaining white troop token and let the Empress see exactly how worthless it was. She called it trash without hesitation. Jang Chun activated the Creation Divine Stone and spent his 3rd free upgrade. The plain troop token jumped directly to gold legendary quality, and the territory drowned in golden light for the 2nd time. For the first time since arriving, the Empress lost her composure. Her affection surged by 20 points to 83 because Jang Chun had just demonstrated an ability that broke every assumption she had about him. He simply asked whether she still considered him unqualified. The Empress immediately changed her tone, apologized for her earlier disrespect, and acknowledged that his ability was beyond anything she understood. Jang Chun offered a simple agreement in return: serve him well, and he would help her pursue immortality while respecting her as a warrior. That answer gained another point, because strength alone was not what she wanted from a lord. With the relationship stabilized, Jang Chun activated the legendary troop token before the monster wave could arrive. A much larger portal formed above the ground, and a black dragon forced its way through with a wingspan wider than Jang Chun's starting territory. The creature launched into the sky, circled once, then landed in front of him with surprising obedience. 11 more black dragons followed through the portal. 12 legendary black dragons lined up before their lord, while the farmers once again flattened themselves against the ground in religious panic. The Empress became even more attentive, because 12 legendary troops were enough to threaten her, despite her own exceptional quality. Each dragon started at 14 stars and carried Dark Breath, Magic Dragon Scales, and Heart of Frenzy as combat abilities. Ordinary rookie troops usually had 1 or 2 stars, so a single dragon possessed physical advantages that could erase normal squads by itself. The dragons would eventually become rideable as well, creating strategic value far beyond raw combat strength. Jang Chun considered giving them majestic names worthy of legendary creatures. He settled on Dragon 1, Dragon 2, Dragon 3, and continued the same pattern until even the Empress looked disappointed. Dragon 9 had the best starting attributes, so Jang Chun promoted her to squad captain. She accepted the position with such visible pride that his terrible naming system suddenly felt slightly less embarrassing. When Jang Chun learned Dragon 9 was female, he assured her that strength mattered more than gender in his territory. The answer visibly relaxed her, and her loyalty toward her new lord became immediate rather than cautious. The Empress abruptly turned toward the fog beyond the fence before the conversation could continue. The 30-minute countdown had ended. A system alert announced the first monster wave, and lizardmen poured out of the mist with rusted weapons and enough confidence to die loudly. Their normal warriors were level 2 with roughly 3 stars, while the elite captains reached level 3 and around 8 stars. Jang Chun compared those numbers to the Empress's 26 and 12 dragons at 14 each. There was no strategy meeting. He gave a single order to kill them. The Empress crossed the fence so quickly that most of the farmers never saw her move. From a distance, she released Spirit Blast through a chain of palm strikes and erased the front formation, including one elite captain. The technique itself was common, but her mastery and overwhelming stats turned a basic move into mass execution. When Jang Chun commented on the destruction, the Empress looked almost offended and explained that she had only used half her power. The western side of the territory was even less competitive. Dragon 9 smashed Lizardmen aside with her tail, while Dragon 1 burned a fleeing captain into charcoal with dark breath. The dragons started arguing over kill counts, and Dragon 1 teased Dragon 9 for trying too hard to impress their lord. Dragon 9 denied everything, then quietly asked whether Jang Chun might find her attractive after she eventually learned human transformation. Jang decides legendary war beasts discussing their boss's preferences was information he could survive without processing. The system ended the problem for him by announcing the monster wave had been cleared in 6 seconds with 0 casualties. The battle report counted 146 lizard warriors and 4 elite captains dead before the territory defenses were meaningfully tested. That clear earned an A-rank evaluation, a result so rare that higher S-rank performances had effectively vanished from modern history. The evaluation multiplied the basic rewards and dropped energy, spirit stones, and multiple treasure chests into Jang Chun's inventory. In 6 seconds, his territory had earned more usable progression resources than many rookies could gather in an entire first day. Jang Chun immediately spent the energy rather than admiring it. The Empress rose to level 2, and all 12 dragons followed her. Before level 20, early growth multiplied base attributes aggressively, pushing the Empress to roughly 49 stars and each dragon to 28. Legendary troops consumed energy at a brutal rate, but the return was obvious every time their numbers doubled. With the first threat eliminated, Jang Chun split the dragons into 4 scouting groups and sent them through the fog in every direction. Their orders were to map terrain, locate resource points, kill useful monsters, and return edible corpses to the territory. Dragon 9 scored another kill within seconds of leaving and dropped a giant monitor lizard carcass beside the farmers without even landing. The farmers, now gradually increasing in number through the huts, immediately began processing the meat and hide. Watching the dragons leave made the Empress unexpectedly restless. She asked what assignment remained for her when every other powerful unit had already been sent to work. Jang Chun gave her the one role he considered non-negotiable: stay beside him and keep the Lord alive. Wang Jiaming's death had proven that early confidence could become a corpse before the first day ended. Jang Chun's newbie protection was gone, and sending his strongest hero away while he stayed behind with farmers would have been reckless. The Empress accepted the logic, then asked for spirit stones so she could restore the cultivation that had weakened during her summoning. Her heavenly sound technique had fallen from transcendent mastery to proficient, a humiliation she clearly intended to erase quickly. Jang Chun reached for ordinary spirit stones and discovered another profitable branch of the creation divine's stone. Low-grade spirit stones could be upgraded into mid-grade stones, containing more than 10 times the usable spiritual energy and far greater purity. He converted several and handed them over. The Empress stared at the crystals, because resources that were rare treasures in her original world had just been produced casually in Jang Chun's palm. Her affection rose again this time because the impossible ability was directly supporting her own path back to power. Jang Chun told her to train and promised that, when possible, he would also improve the technique limiting her progress. Then he patted her shoulder as a deliberate test of how far their rapidly changing relationship had actually moved. The Empress froze from head to toe, neither attacking nor retreating, then escaped toward meditation with far more speed than dignity. Jang Chun learned something useful from the reaction. The terrifying former ruler had extraordinary combat experience and almost none with casual intimacy. The 6-second battle report gave Jang Chun enough concrete numbers to understand how violently legendary quality distorted early game progression. The kill count listed 146 lizard warriors and 4 stronger Decurion captains, all erased before the territory suffered a single casualty. The reward package included roughly 13,630 energy and more than 1,100 spirit stones before chest contents were counted. 4 fine treasure chests and 11 normal chests also dropped, turning a fight shorter than most introductions into a full economic cycle for the territory. Jang Chun's classroom simulations had always forced him to start with weak armies, limited money, and bad terrain. So effortless overwhelming force felt almost educationally incorrect. The Empress misunderstood his disbelief as criticism and defended herself by repeating that she had deliberately restricted Spirit Blast to around half strength. That apology revealed another useful personality trait. She took pride in power, but still cared whether Jang Chun considered her performance appropriate for the order given. The dragons cared about a different metric, immediately comparing individual kills and complaining whenever a sisters attack erased targets before anyone else could reach them. Dragon 5 accused Dragon 9 of behaving as if she had drunk phoenix blood, while Dragon 1 mocked the captain for collecting kills purely to impress their lord. Dragon 9 snapped back, then ruined the denial by asking whether her eventual human form might be pretty enough for Jang Chun to like. The exchange told Jang Chun that legendary quality had not created emotionless military pieces. His troops had vanity, rivalry, humor, and social needs he would eventually have to manage. When he leveled the squad, 13 separate pillars of light descended at once, one for the Empress and one for each black dragon. The early level rule doubled base growth so aggressively that the Empress reached roughly 49 stars while each dragon rose to around 28 after only one upgrade. Jang Chun watched most of the newly earned energy disappear immediately and accepted the pattern. Legendary units were expensive because every point invested produced absurd battlefield returns. He organized the dragons into 4 groups of 3 specifically so no single scout would repeat Dragon 1's mistake of approaching a large settlement alone. Each group received the same priorities: map fog, mark resources, kill monsters when safe, and avoid gambling legendary lives for ordinary loot. Dragon 9 had barely crossed the visible boundary when her kill notification announced a swamp monitor lizard and 3 additional energy. She flew back over the territory only long enough to drop the carcass from the air, turning monster delivery into something resembling extremely violent logistics. The farmers had increased from 10 to 12 through hut recruitment and immediately processed the corpse without needing Jang Chun to supervise every routine action. They recovered 10 portions of giant lizard meat and 1 useful hide, giving the territory food diversity before any actual farmland had been constructed. The Empress watched the dragons scout, the farmers work, and the territory continue functioning without her participation until competitive frustration became stronger than royal composure. Her request for an assignment was less about boredom than identity. In her original world, standing idle while others earned merit had probably never been part of rulership. Jang Chun's order to remain as personal protection therefore gave her a role worthy of strength instead of treating her as decoration beside the Lord's Hall. When she asked for cultivation resources, Jang Chun initially reached for low-grade spirit stones before noticing every crystal carried the Creation Divine Stones enhancement mark. The menu showed mid-grade conversion at 10 low-grade stones, upper grade around 1,000, supreme grade around 100,000, plus elemental variants for specialized cultivation. Jang Chun stopped at mid-grade because that was enough to solve the current problem without burning funds on purity the Empress had not requested. Her reaction proved the choice was already extraordinary. She explained that mid-grade stones were rare even in the world where she had once stood at the peak. The system raised her effect to 87 after she accepted them, showing that practical support of her cultivation mattered alongside demonstrations of raw authority. Jang Chun's shoulder touch afterward was calculated from that rising affection, not an attempt to turn a combat subordinate into a romance before the territory had proper food. Her total physical freeze followed by a hurried retreat into training told him she had no established script for casual contact from a man she increasingly respected. Jang Chun stored the information without pressing further because the relationship was progressing fast enough through power, trust, and shared benefit already. The first fine chest later produced the life-reaping military spike, a level 2 weapon whose value looked ridiculous to ordinary rookies and mediocre beside the Empress. Another chest returned 50 spirit stones, a third supplied a useful block of refined wood, and a fourth produced the Arrow Tower blueprint that became his earliest real defense. The normal chests were mostly construction resources, with a couple of white-quality items too weak to justify equipping anyone important. Jang Chun's decision to sell the military spike was based on market timing as much as personal standards because early transitional equipment depreciated faster than territory resources. 2,000 spirit stones on the first day was excellent value for something that might sell for a fraction of that once blacksmiths and monster camps became common. Ing Man's instant purchase confirmed she valued speed over bargain hunting and had enough family capital to treat a 2,000 stone experiment as pocket change. The sale also became indirect proof of survival because a dead or desperate lord would not normally list one of the zone's best visible weapons instead of equipping it. When Jang Chun later revealed the A-rank evaluation, he deliberately chose the truth, precisely because the truth sounded less credible than any believable false rating. A C-rank answer would have invited serious analysis, while an A-rank answer let people dismiss the entire subject as Jang Chun's humor and stop asking for evidence. Shuadia unintentionally strengthened the camouflage by defending him as someone obviously joking, rather than someone exposing a result nobody was psychologically prepared to accept. Ingman's response disappointed Jang Chun because he had started treating her as the most dangerous mayoral rival and hoped that she might recognize an outrageous truth hidden in plain sight. Her failure to believe the number did not make her harmless. She still reached level 1 second, far ahead of most nobles, who had arrived with comparable resources. Shuadia followed in third, proving her cheerful personality and open concern for classmates had not prevented extremely efficient expansion behind the scenes. The special hero strength ranking activated because Newbie Town 86 collectively exceeded neighboring rookie towns, making the reward itself evidence that this zone contained abnormal talent density. First place offered an excellent treasure chest, which would have cost Jang Chun thousands of spirit stones to create through enhancement, even before considering its random contents. The ranking also created a delayed public test of the Empress, forcing Jang Chun to balance two opposing advantages, winning openly and keeping her exact quality hidden. Lin Mo's betting pool transformed that tension into a third opportunity because every lord who underestimated Jang Chun could finance the next round of Divine Stone upgrades. Jang Chun never needed people to think he was weak forever. He only needed them to be wrong long enough for their confidence to become a resource. That principle would guide nearly every social decision he made for the rest of the source. From hiding the Empress during Li Muja's raid to letting rival factions explain his boss kills for him. With the Empress training, Jang Chun opened the remaining treasure chests from the first monster wave and sorted the useful results. One fine chest produced a life-reaping military spike, a respectable early weapon that looked completely pointless beside a 49-star legendary hero. Other chests yielded spirit stones, refined wood, an arrow tower blueprint, normal resources, and several white-quality items. Jang Chun realized his standards had already become dangerously distorted because equipment other rookies would treasure now looked like inventory clutter. He decided the military spike would be more valuable as cash. Before listing it, he checked the town channel and discovered everyone had spent the monster wave discussing whether he was still alive. Tucson Ya had posted encouragement almost exactly when the attack began, which made Jang Chun wonder how carefully the Fox girl was tracking him. Li Muja had confidently predicted his death, while Chuatia threatened anyone who treated that possibility too casually. Lin Mo's analysis was less personal. Even a rare hero should have struggled against a wave after such a rushed upgrade. Jang Chun listed the fine weapon for 2,000 spirit stones with an instant buy option. It sold in 1 second to Ingman. The zone reacted immediately because fine equipment appearing for sale during the first hour implied either absurd luck or a successful monster fight. Jang Chun entered the discussion and said the wave had been difficult, but he had managed to clear it. That carefully understated answer gave everyone exactly enough information to invent explanations without exposing his real army. Chuatia celebrated his survival. Li Muja went quiet, and wealthier lords started treating Jang Chun less like a random commoner. Ingman then asked a more dangerous question. What battle rating had he received? Battle ratings could reveal a lord's actual military performance, so giving a truthful answer should have been strategically stupid. Jang Chun answered A rank anyway. The truth sounded so impossible that nobody believed him. An A rank clear with 0 casualties and a 6-second duration was harder to accept than the idea that Jang Chun was simply joking. Chuacha even defended him by telling everyone to stop taking the obvious joke seriously. Jang Chun decided unbelievable truth was sometimes safer than a convincing lie. The Heavenly Tao then announced the next level 1 finishers. Ingman secured 2nd place, while Chuatia reached 3rd, confirming that both women were far more capable than the average rich rookie. A special event followed because Newbie Town 86 had unusually strong heroes compared with surrounding towns. A hero combat power ranking would settle at noon the next day, with an excellent treasure chest reserved for 1st place. Jang Chun looked at the Empress's current power and mentally placed his name on that chest before anyone else knew he was competing. Li Muja immediately mocked him in public, claiming luck could help with territory upgrades, but not a direct hero strength ranking. Lin Mo opened another betting pool for 1st place, which attracted large wagers from people trying to profit from their family intelligence. Jang Chun watched the pool grow and saw money rather than competition. Far away, Ingman and her hero were performing a very different analysis of him. Her companion, Ming Tian, was an epic hero connected to the legendary Qin military line and carried memories ordinary summoned heroes should not possess. Ming Tian had once belonged to a powerful historical family and had sacrificed her original position to protect Ingman personally. Her divination technique, Qi observation, had already exposed the general strength of nearly every important lord in the town. Jang Chun was the exception. Ming Times reasoned that a commoner could not possibly begin with an epic or legendary hero, so her failed reading had to have some ordinary explanation. Back in Jang Chun's territory, Dragon 9 returned with the resource discovery he needed most. The scouts had found an iron mine only a few kilometers west. Jang Chun assigned farmers to the deposit, built the smelting workshop, and used the creation divine stone to solve the quality problem immediately. Other lords needed rare refined iron deposits to produce high-grade construction material. Jang Chun could upgrade normal iron after mining it. That single difference turned an ordinary resource node into the foundation for level 2 construction, the mysterious cottage, and stronger defensive buildings. The Empress returned from meditation sooner than expected and asked for more spirit stones. Jang Chun had assumed the mid-grade stones would last for hours. She had consumed them in roughly 1 hour while rebuilding her cultivation, revealing a talent as expensive as it was monstrous. He produced another batch, but the Empress hesitated before resuming training. Something had repeatedly tried to inspect her from a distance while she meditated. She estimated the probing power belonged to an epic hero around level 3 or 4, far beneath her current sensitivity, but still dangerous for a rookie zone. Jang Chun immediately thought of Ingman and Ming Tian. An epic hero with an information skill mattered more strategically than another frontline fighter because it could expose hidden strength before battles began. He ordered the Empress not to leave his side until he understood who was watching. She agreed suspiciously quickly for someone who had complained about being kept home earlier. Over the next 2 hours, the dragons mapped more than 100 square kilometers and marked 6 rare resource points plus 18 common ones. Jang Chun's luck with natural resources was average, which seemed fair after the universe had given him the creation divine stone. The chain arrow tower he built from the earlier blueprint reached roughly 8 stars of firepower, enough to dominate ordinary early defenses. Its material costs still hurt because every serious structure demanded refined iron, rare resources, or energy he could not produce passively. Territory energy came primarily from killing enemies. That limitation turned the mysterious cottage into the most interesting building in the territory once Jang Chun finally constructed it. The shop stocked 3 random items that day: a refined iron sword, a basic health potion, and something called Dark Bait. Dark Bait attracted dark attribute monsters and created a monster wave matching the territory's level, with stronger effects at night. Jang Chun bought it immediately. Instead of using it at level 1, he planned to upgrade the territory first, so the summoned monsters would be stronger and therefore more profitable. The blacksmith also completed his first level 5 normal sword. Jang Chun touched the plain blade with the creation divine stone and upgraded it into a fine quality refined iron sword. Its bonus physical and spirit attributes were outstanding by rookie standards, making it one of the best early game weapons anyone in the zone could buy. Jang Chun ordered full sword production and listed the prototype for 5,000 spirit stones, deliberately testing how irrational the market could become. Lunch created another profitable divine stone experiment. The farmers had monster meat from the dragons, but Jang Chun still relied on instant meals because the territory lacked a proper cook. He discovered those meals could be upgraded into spiritual food for 10 spirit stones each. The transformed meal contained trace spiritual energy useful for cultivation and smelled dramatically better than anything the huts could produce. Jang Chun kept one, gave one to the Empress, and listed a third for 200 spirit stones. It sold instantly to Ingman, just like the earlier weapon. The town channel immediately assumed Jang Chun owned spirit rice fields or some hidden farming resource, because nobody believed ordinary food could appear that early. Wei Ming asked whether Jang Chun had chosen the farming lord path. Jang Chun answered truthfully that he was only an entertainment lord and sold these things because his own troops could not use them efficiently. The statement sounded like such an outrageous humble brag that the channel went quiet. Then the 5,000 stone swords sold. Jang Chun expected Ingman's name again, and instead found Shuatia listed as the buyer. His mood changed immediately because he had spent years refusing charity from rich classmates and did not intend to start accepting it now. He called Shuatia and demanded to know whether she had overpaid just to help him. She denied it and sent a battlefield image that changed the entire conversation. A level 10 epic monster was camped roughly 3 kilometers from her territory and guarding a large refined iron deposit. It had already killed 2 of her rare scout cavalry. Shuatia needed better weapons badly enough that Jang Chun's overpriced sword was still a practical purchase. Jang Chun stopped being offended and started doing energy calculations. An epic monster at that level could provide around 100,000 energy, plus loot far beyond normal rookie enemies. For a moment, he considered tricking Shuatia, into revealing the location so he could steal the kill. He rejected the idea immediately because cheating the system was one thing and betraying a classmate was another. Selling her equipment at market price, however, was perfectly acceptable capitalism. Jang Chun asked how many refined iron swords she needed. Chuatia answered with another question. How many could he produce? Her surviving force contained 22 cavalry troops, so Jang Chun offered 22 swords at 2,500 spirit stones each. 2 hours later, he posted the designated batch sale, and every weapon moved at once. The public trade notification sent Newbytown 86 into another panic because 22 identical fine swords could not be explained as lucky monster drops. The smarter lords reached the correct partial conclusion. Jang Chun had a blacksmith capable of mass production and reliable access to refined iron. That meant his level 2 upgrade was probably coming before theirs. The reaction also exposed how quickly valuable resources turned a weak lord into a target. Ingman offered 200,000 spirit stones for temporary access to his iron, promising she only needed enough to upgrade once. Lieutenant Muingang offered military rank and a monthly salary if Jang Chun joined the army. Lin Mo offered 10,000 spirit stones per month if Jang Chun became his exclusive resource supplier. Jang Chun rejected all three because a temporary payout was less valuable than controlling a market nobody else could currently serve. Limuja responded with a threat disguised as advice. Once someone obtained a subjugation order, he warned, rich lords could legally raid another territory and seize bound resources by force. Chuatia immediately declared that anyone using such an order against Jang Chun would answer to her. Jang Chun had a different reaction. He looked at 12 legendary dragons, a 49-star empress, and a chain arrow tower, then quietly hoped somebody would be stupid enough to try. An invading army would not just lose, every dead unit would become energy for the territory that supposedly needed protection. The refined iron business changed Jang Chun's position in the town more quickly than the first place announcement, because resources created dependencies other lords could actually purchase. A record could be dismissed as luck, but 22 identical swords meant repeatable production, controlled raw material, and enough infrastructure to keep supplying future buyers. Several rookies openly wondered whether Green Water's Blue Mountains secretly increased drop rates, because admitting an F-rank entertainment lord owned an industrial advantage felt less comfortable. The batch itself disproved that theory to anyone thinking carefully, since monsters did not conveniently drop 22 weapons with identical quality, level shape, and forge characteristics. Jang Chun let the smart lords reach the blacksmith conclusion because hiding the refined iron operation was no longer possible after selling enough swords to fund new upgrades. What he continued hiding was the reason normal iron could become refined iron without locating the high-quality deposit everyone else needed. Chuatia never received that explanation either, even after paying market price for enough swords to arm 12 wolf riders and 10 remaining scout cavalry. Her original force had already lost 2 rare scouts to the black-striped tiger, making the purchase an attempt to recover combat viability rather than a romantic excuse to transfer money. The tiger's refined iron deposit also created urgency, because without that resource, Chuatia's level 2 progression would stall while faster rivals pulled ahead. Jang Chun understood the pressure because resource gates mattered more than abstract power whenever a territory upgrade required one material that could not be substituted. He also understood why the epic target made Chuatia's situation unusually valuable. The same monster blocking her economy represented enough energy to accelerate the Empress several levels. His refusal to steal the location from a classmate established a boundary Jang Chun kept even while manipulating markets and baiting hostile lords into expensive mistakes. He was comfortable exploiting arrogance, greed, or aggression after people chose those actions, but he did not treat every friendship as another resource node. That distinction explained why Chuatia trusted him, despite never knowing how much strength he concealed, or how often he made jokes while calculating profit. Ingman's 200,000 stone iron offer tested a different temptation, because the payment could have multiplied Jang Chun's liquid balance instantly without requiring combat. She even joked that she only wanted a tiny bite from the resource supply, promising to take just enough refined iron for the next Lord's Hall requirement. Jang Chun still refused because selling access to the source would expose production, reduce future weapon pricing, and potentially accelerate his strongest-ranking rival. Lieutenant Muingang's military offer carried prestige but poor economics, with a sergeant-level salary of only a few hundred spirit stones per month, compared with Jang Chun's current sales. Lin Mo recognized that weakness and countered with 10,000 per month for exclusive resource access, effectively trying to convert Jang Chun from competitor into supplier. Jang Chun rejected the arrangement for the same reason he rejected Ingman's larger one-time offer. Owning the bottleneck was worth more than renting it to richer families. Li Muja's response exposed the coercive side of the battlefield economy, because noble lords did not always negotiate after identifying a profitable commoner territory. Subjugation orders legalized temporary invasion, letting an attacker enter another territory and seize bound resources under Heavenly Tao rules, instead of committing unrestricted murder. In normal cases, attacker and defender negotiated because troops were expensive, dead units represented lost energy, and both sides preferred controlled extraction over mutual destruction. The target lord effectively became a farm account, surrendering resources while the stronger lord paid enough compensation to keep the arrangement cheaper than war. Li Muja's threat removed the compensation logic entirely and implied he would use family military strength to force Jang Chun into the relationship without meaningful payment. Chuacha reacted strongly because she recognized the difference between legal subjugation and using noble status to intimidate a commoner who lacked outside protection. Tusunya focused on the emotional angle, begging people not to hurt the handsome big brother she had not actually met in person. Wei Ming summarized the structural problem more accurately. Possessing valuable treasure without visible strength invited people who believed ownership itself proved vulnerability. Jang Chun's hidden army reversed that assumption so completely that he started viewing a subjugation order as something he wanted an enemy to acquire. Every rare troop killed inside his territory would return energy to him, while the attacker's lost investment could produce compensation or surrender payments afterward. That logic only worked because the Empress and dragons were hidden. Public proof of legendary defenders would have raised the cost of aggression above what any rational rookie would risk. Jang Chun therefore kept posting swords and acting financially desperate enough to suggest his economic development had outrun his military development. When Lieutenant Muingong asked him to stop pouring gasoline on the situation, Jang Chun answered that he was simply poor and needed to sell things. The statement was technically true in emotional memory, even after his balance crossed 55,000 spirit stones for the first time in either life. That number affected him more than the golden announcements, because it represented money he had personally generated rather than family wealth, borrowed capital, or a temporary system reward. His previous life knowledge had failed to make him rich on Blue Star, and the student loan had reinforced how far he stood from noble heirs before awakening. The Swordforge, in contrast, created repeatable cash flow from ordinary iron plus divine stone conversion, giving him an economy that could survive after one lucky chest was forgotten. Jang Chun was already planning where to reinvest the balance when Dragon One's injury alert interrupted the calculation. His first emotional response was fear, because legendary troops were not replaceable at rookie prices, and losing even one would permanently reduce the value of the third free upgrade. The second response was analytical excitement once the system confirmed Dragon 1 remained alive and capable of reporting. Something had been strong enough to penetrate legendary scales without killing her, meaning the scout had found a target far above ordinary wilderness monsters. A stronger target meant more energy, better chests, rarer drops, or a strategic structure worth defending, any of which could justify immediate attention. Dragon 1 described not a single boss but a large centaur civilization with roughly 1,000 inhabitants, organized patrols, and a hero directing concentrated attacks. That explanation also reassured Jang Chun about the injury, because disciplined focus fire was more dangerous to an isolated dragon than the individual centaur's listed power suggested. He immediately changed scouting doctrine from independent confidence to coordinated groups, a small tactical adjustment that prevented legendary quality from becoming an excuse for arrogance. The wild centaur nest solved a labor problem Jang Chun had not yet fully confronted. Every new mine, lumber camp, smelter road, and frontier point needed security. Assigning a legendary black dragon to each ordinary resource point would protect the node but waste the dragon's speed, comsac, and monster farming capacity. Elite centaurs could handle routine threats, while the dragons remained mobile enough to scout, hunt, reinforce, and respond to real emergencies across expanding territory. That strategic role made capturing the nest more important than simply harvesting another 1,000 enemies for energy. Jang Chun therefore prepared the expedition as a territory development operation with combat rewards attached, not a random raid because one scout had been scratched. By the time Jang Chun closed the channel, his spirit stone balance had climbed above 55,000. For someone who had entered the battlefield on borrowed money that morning, the number felt almost unreal. Then an alert announced that Dragon 1 had been injured. Fear lasted less than a second before Jang Chun started smiling. A legendary dragon getting hurt meant the scouts had found something strong enough to be worth killing. Dragon 1 reported a centaur settlement roughly 10 kilometers south, containing close to 1,000 fighters between levels 6 and 9. The settlement had organized patrols, a commanding hero, and enough concentrated fire to injure a legendary scout that approached carelessly. Jang Chun was disappointed. It was not the epic boss he had imagined, but the strategic value was better in another way. The centaurs occupied a wild troop building. Capturing that nest would let him recruit elite quality soldiers long before his ordinary barracks could produce anything comparable. His dragons were too valuable to spend their lives guarding lumber camps and quarries. Jang Chun needed reliable middle-tier troops for garrisons, escort work, and routine fighting while legendary units handled serious targets. He recalled most of the scouting dragons and prepared to attack personally. The Empress immediately asked whether she could join, and this time Jang Chun agreed because her official assignment remained protecting him. Before leaving, he spent energy raising his own level to 5 so he would not remain completely helpless behind his army forever. He also took a blank white sword from the forge and opened one of the Creation Divine Stone's expensive equipment paths. 20,000 spirit stones disappeared. The ordinary weapon transformed into the Crimson Holy Word, an excellent quality level 5 sword glowing with deep red light. It carried major physical and spirit bonuses plus 2 built-in abilities, including a sweeping blood arc attack. The Empress stared at the weapon with more visible desire than she had shown toward almost anything else in the territory. Jang Chun tossed it to her and reminded her that keeping him alive was still the only duty that mattered. Her affection rose to 88 as she accepted the blade with the reverence of someone receiving a relic from a lost dynasty. 30 minutes later, Jang Chun, the Empress, and 8 dragons approached the centaur territory through tall grass. Hundreds of elite warriors patrolled the camp with bows, blades, charge skills, and around 20 stars of combat power at level 8. A normal rookie would have avoided the place entirely. Dragon 9 was more offended by Jang Chun's stealth plan than the enemy numbers. She complained that legendary dragons should announce themselves with a roar instead of crawling through grass like thieves. Jang Chun knocked her lightly on the head and reminded the squad leader that tactics existed specifically to avoid expensive heroic deaths. His school results had included a national tactical competition, so the battlefield problem looked simpler to him than it did to the dragons. He positioned the 8 flyers side by side, assigned exact approach coordinates, and ordered maximum speed passes over the command zone. The final instruction was dark breath across the formation like a lawnmower. All 8 dragons launched together on command. Center lookouts recognized Dragon 1 from the earlier scouting clash, then panicked when 7 more identical threats appeared beside her. Within seconds, the dragons crossed above the command area and released 8 streams of black fire. The breath attacks overlapped into a moving wall that cut through tents, patrols, and elite formations before the centaurs could organize a response. Ordinary defenders collapsed almost immediately, while stronger elites survived only long enough to produce better loot. Jang Chun's combat log flooded with energy, spirit stones, and treasure chests. Then the second kill dropped a troop soul. Troop souls could promote lower quality soldiers or raise the star level of troops already at the same quality. That single mechanic immediately gave Jang Chun a path to improve whatever he recruited from the captured nest. The Empress watched the attack pattern with genuine respect because the dragons were not simply overwhelming the camp through brute strength. Jang Chun dismissed the praise as basic high school tactics, which only made his education system sound terrifying to someone from another world. She asked when she might visit Blue Star herself. Battlefield rules required a summoned hero to reach 100 affection before traveling back with a lord. The Empress smiled and told Jang Chun he would have to earn complete devotion first. Their conversation ended when a 3-meter centaur hero burst from the main command tent and tried to demand an explanation. 8 dragon breaths hit him before he finished the challenge. The rare hero died in seconds, dropping 20,000 energy, spirit stones, a rare wind bow, and something far more interesting. A subjugation order appeared in Jang Chun's inventory. It was exactly the legal invasion item Li Mujia and Lin Mo had just used to threaten his iron operation. Jang Chun briefly considered using it against one of them, then realized the item was more valuable if somebody else used it against him. He could sell the order once, let the buyer invade his territory, destroy the invading army, collect energy, and demand compensation afterward. The attack item had just become a business model. The only complication was hiding Jang Chun's identity as the seller, so nobody realized the entire invasion had been invited. While the dragons recovered from extended breath attacks, he finally opened the friend requests sent by Tusanya. The fox girl had been messaging him all day, alternating between admiration, concern, missed video calls, and increasingly dramatic attempts to get his attention. One message even called herself an idiot purely to test whether Jang Chun was secretly reading without replying. Jang Chun had originally assumed she was simply excitable. Now he suspected there was more intelligence behind the cute behavior than the channel gave her credit for. He contacted her and offered 10% commission for selling a subjugation order anonymously. Tusan Ya understood the scheme almost immediately. She summarized the idea correctly: sell the attack order to an enemy who believed Jang Chun was weak, then profit from crushing that enemy afterward. Jang Chun used a secret transaction feature that cost 100 spirit stones and transferred the order to her without revealing the source. Less than a minute later, Tusan Ya reported the sale complete. Li Muja had bought it. Jang Chun received 45,000 spirit stones after commission, far above the historical price he expected for the item itself. Tusan Ya explained that Li Muja was not really buying an invasion token. He was buying the first chance to seize refined iron, upgrade to level 2, and claim another Heavenly Dao first-place reward. She had sold the opportunity rather than the paper and convinced him to pay accordingly. Jang Chun revised his opinion of the fox girl immediately. She had also taken only 5% commission, instead of the 10 they agreed on, leaving him even more profit. The Heavenly Dao soon announced Li Muja's subjugation challenge against Jang Chun, with battle scheduled to begin in 1 hour. The town channel exploded because nobody had seen a public listing for the order and assumed Li Muja must have earned it through combat. Chuachia threatened to destroy the Li family if Jang Chun was seriously harmed. Li Muja became increasingly confident, telling Jang Chun to spend the remaining hour mining enough iron to satisfy him. He warned that resistance would be treated as an excuse to destroy the territory entirely. Tusan Ya performed her assigned role perfectly, acting terrified and begging Li Muja not to hurt her admired big brother. Li Muja mocked her innocence without realizing the fox had personally sold him the trap. Jang Chun closed the channel because the centaur battle was not finished. The remaining defenders had finally formed a ragged line after losing their hero. He ordered a second coordinated breath pass, and the dragons broke the formation before landing among survivors with Heart of Frenzy active. At level 4, each dragon had around 56 stars, far above the level 7 and 8 elites trying to stop them. Arrows bounced from enchanted scales while claws, tails, and fire destroyed anything that remained organized. The Empress casually killed several fleeing centaurs, who made the mistake of approaching Jang Chun's observation point. She asked whether he wanted prisoners instead of complete extermination. Jang Chun rejected the option based on battlefield doctrine he had studied before entering. Captured soldiers reset to level 1, carried weaker loyalty, and deserted more easily than troops recruited through a controlled building. Spending energy on unreliable prisoners made no sense when the nest could provide fresh units already bound to the territory. The dragons finished the cleanup, and Jang Chun approached the massive centaur nest at the center of the settlement. The building belonged to the Markan bloodline and offered respectable production rates for elite warriors, rare officers, and extremely rare excellent commanders. 12 units were already waiting in stock. Jang Chun captured the building and recruited all 12 immediately. The new centaur warriors arrived at level 1 with elite quality, physical builds, ranged attacks, charge skills, and 3 stars of combat power. They were exactly the type of dependable garrison force his expanding domain needed. They also required names from their lord. Jang Chun introduced Horse 1, Horse 2, Horse 3, and continued until the Empress visibly questioned every decision that had led her here. She suggested delegating future naming responsibilities because her lord was clearly occupied with more important matters. Jang Chun refused on principle and described naming as a sacred privilege of rulership. The Empress could not determine whether he was joking, which meant he had successfully protected the tradition. Dragon 9 returned with the complete battle report and enough loot to justify the entire expedition several times over. The captured Markan nest produced 1 soldier roughly every 4 hours, with elite warriors making up about 99% of normal recruitment results. Rare officers appeared around 1% of the time, while an excellent commander had only a tiny fraction of a percent chance to emerge naturally. That probability explained why the 12 units waiting in storage mattered immediately. Jang Chun could not simply replace a full garrison every hour if he wasted them. Combat settlement also returned roughly 78,230 energy and more than 3,200 spirit stones after the final cleanup. 58 fine treasure chests and more than 200 normal chests made the battlefield look less like a conquered camp and more like a warehouse acquisition. The rare wind bow from the centaur hero went into inventory because none of Jang Chun's highest value troops needed a conventional ranged weapon at that moment. 44 fine equipment pieces and more than 100 white items created another future sales pile even before his blacksmith finished the next sword batch. The 54 elite troop souls were the strategic core of the haul because each one could either promote a lower unit or contribute toward higher stars and evolution. Jang Chun checked whether the physique book could be enhanced before using it and backed away immediately when the divine stone displayed a cost wildly above its current value. Permanent physical growth was still rare enough that consuming the ordinary version made more sense than saving forever for an upgrade he might not afford soon. The single point pushed his physical attribute upward, continuing the slow project of making the Lord himself less fragile, even when his army did most of the killing. Jang Chun's quality over quantity doctrine came directly from energy economics rather than personal preference for elite units. Raising a normal militia soldier toward level 10 could consume thousands of energy, and every death erased that investment with no refund. A smaller force that survived because of better quality preserved energy across future battles, making premium troops cheaper over time despite higher initial costs. Horse 1 became the demonstration case because promoting one centaur let Jang Chun measure the exact cost before committing the entire squad. The first rare troop soul raised his quality, while later applications improved star rating until the accumulated growth crossed the next evolution condition. When excellent quality finally activated, Horse 1's frame visibly thickened, and Savage Trample joined the abilities inherited from his original centaur class. His excitement was not merely cosmetic, because the system bound stronger loyalty to a lord who personally provided irreversible racial advancement. The other 11 warriors had arrived expecting ordinary garrison service, and instead watched their first recruit become something their own nest almost never produced naturally. Jang Chun's upgraded them one after another before that comparison could turn into resentment, spending nearly half his current liquid balance on unit quality. The final squad represented 12 excellent cavalry troops with both ranged and melee capability, not 12 fragile specialists requiring separate protection. Their mobility also complemented static defenses, because they could intercept raiders beyond the fence, pursue survivors, or reinforce mining routes faster than infantry. That versatility became the main reason Jang Chun felt comfortable hiding the Empress completely during Li Muja's invasion, instead of keeping her available as emergency insurance. If the centaurs failed, the chain arrow tower could still support them, and the legendary units remained a second line Li Muja did not know existed. Chuachia's misunderstanding about the centaurs, therefore, helped more than it hurt, because anything she believed sincerely was likely to spread naturally through the same social network. Watching Jang Chun, she assumed a rare treasure chest had produced an unusually lucky troop summon, an explanation improbable enough to be exciting, but believable enough to stop deeper questions. Jang Chun never corrected her, because the best cover story was often one invented by a worried friend who had no reason to sound deceptive. The upcoming live stream made information control even more important, since hundreds of lords would freeze-frame every visible troop, building weapon, and injury for clues afterward. Jang Chun deliberately left the basic wooden fence untouched, allowing the territory exterior to remain visually weaker than the forces positioned behind it. He also kept the dragons away from camera angles and ordered the Empress to stay completely out of combat unless something went catastrophically wrong. The chain arrow tower was acceptable exposure because Li Muja already knew Jang Chun controlled iron and could plausibly connect that resource to advanced fortification. Excellent centaurs were riskier, but Jang Chun needed a public military explanation strong enough to justify survival without revealing the true top tier of his army. That balance between showing enough and hiding enough turned the invasion into an intelligence operation as much as a defense. Li Muja entered expecting to prove a commoner had resources without force, while Jang Chun intended to reveal only enough force to keep future attackers confident. The one spirit stone tip before teleportation served the same purpose socially. It looked arrogant enough to provoke Li Muja, without explaining why the defender felt safe. Ingman's immediate recognition of the joke again marked her as the person most likely to understand Jang Chun's behavior, even when she could not read his hidden stats. That pattern mattered for the mayoral race, because rivals who understood intent were more dangerous than rivals who merely owned larger armies. Jang Chun never forgot that. While enjoying the comedy of Li Muja's confidence, entertainment value did not cancel the need to collect information on everyone watching. By the time the teleportation gate opened, the territory had become a controlled stage where almost every visible detail had been chosen for an audience. Li Muja thought he was streaming an execution, but Jang Chun had already decided which secrets the viewers would be allowed to learn from the fight. The settlement yielded tens of thousands of energy, thousands of spirit stones, dozens of fine chests, hundreds of normal chests, equipment, and 54 elite troop souls. A physique book permanently increased physical attributes by 1 point, so Jang Chun used it on himself instead of selling it. The improvement was tiny compared with his heroes, but one permanent stat was still one stat closer to surviving his own ambitions. Back at the territory, Jang Chun began turning the new centaurs into something far more dangerous than elite guards. He upgraded an elite troop soul into rare quality for 1,000 spirit stones, then applied it to Horse 1. Additional souls raised the centaur's stars until promotion conditions pushed him into excellent quality. The total cost was roughly 4,000 spirit stones and 4 souls for a unit tier wealthy families normally paid fortunes to acquire. Horse 1 looked at his transformed body and estimated he could defeat dozens of his former self. The other centaurs watched with growing devotion because their new lord was casually rewriting the limits of their species. Jang Chun continued until all 12 had reached excellent quality. The process cost 48,000 spirit stones and 48 troop souls, but the squad gained enormous stat growth and the savage trample skill. His wallet became lighter while his garrison became strong enough to kill most rookie armies without legendary support. Then Chuatia called in panic and reminded him that Li Muja's invasion would begin in 2 minutes. Jang Chun had not forgotten exactly. He had simply been busy with problems that mattered more. Chuatia added one detail that finally made the attack interesting. Li Muja was live-streaming the entire invasion to publicly humiliate him. Jang Chun stared at the screen and realized his enemy was paying spirit stones to broadcast his own defeat. Chuatia assumed Jang Chun's calm expression meant he intended to surrender and preserve whatever resources Li Muja allowed him to keep. She promised they could rebuild later, and even offered future protection if she eventually became mayor. Jang Chun finally told her he had a legendary hero and legendary troops. Chuatia rolled her eyes, because the claim sounded exactly like the kind of impossible joke he had been making since yesterday. He turned the camera toward the Centaur squad instead, showing her only the strength he was willing to reveal. Chuatia saw powerful cavalry and assumed the rare first-place chest had produced an unusually strong troop token. That explanation was wrong, but it comforted her enough to stop planning a rescue mission. Before the invasion opened, Jang Chun spent more energy pushing all 12 centaurs to level 6. Their combat power climbed to roughly 30 stars each, already enough to challenge level 10 rare troops without help from the Empress. He joined Li Muja's livestream and found nearly 800 viewers waiting. Li Muja stood in polished silver armor before a beast race hero, human sharpshooters, and trolls, all rare quality and raised with family resources. The audience asked for restraint while still watching eagerly enough to justify the stream's 10 spirit stone per minute cost. Lin Mo revealed he had offered 30,000 for the same subjugation order and lost the bid. Jang Chun now knew Tusan Ya had extracted almost 20,000 more from Li Muja than another major buyer was willing to pay. Li Muja announced that his level 5 rare troops would make an example of the entertainment lord who had gotten lucky with resources. Jang Chun tipped the stream 1 spirit stone. Li Muja interpreted it as begging for mercy. Ingman immediately understood it was mockery. A teleportation gate opened inside Jang Chun's territory, and Li Muja stepped through with enough theatrical confidence for 3 different people. He saw the basic wooden fence and laughed, because Jang Chun had not bothered upgrading the walls. 2 crossbow bolts answered before he finished explaining how easy the raid would be. A rare sharpshooter was pinned to the ground and died before the invaders even reached the fence. Li Muja needed several seconds to understand that a rookie territory had just killed one of his prize soldiers from extreme range. He tried threatening Jang Chun again. 2 more bolts killed another sharpshooter and forced Li Muja behind his troll bodyguards. Wei Ming identified the weapon from the stream. Jang Chun had built a chain arrow tower, a rare defensive structure with iron requirements most rookies could not meet. Chuatia advised Li Muja to retreat before pride cost him anything else. For a moment, the correct decision was obvious even to Li Muja. Then he remembered the 50,000 spirit stones he had paid, the 800 witnesses, and the humiliation of leaving with nothing. He ordered the trolls forward instead. The territory gate opened calmly. 12 excellent centaur warriors charged out in formation, and Li Muja initially mistook the move for reckless confidence. Jang Chun ordered the tower to focus fire, while the centaurs released their own arrows. 3 rare trolls collapsed beneath concentrated volleys before the attackers could establish a shield wall. Then the centaurs triggered Savage Trample. The impact cracked the ground and stunned Li Muja's entire formation, including the Lord himself. Wei Ming recognized the signature power of high-tier centaur chieftains and realized the defenders were excellent quality, not ordinary elite cavalry. The livestream audience stopped asking whether Jang Chun could survive and started asking how he had built this force so quickly. The centaurs entered the stunned formation with swords and turned the invasion into a close-range slaughter. Li Muja shut down his stream in the middle of the disaster. Viewers immediately complained because the only entertaining part had begun after the attacker stopped winning. Jang Chun noticed several people offering tips if somebody restored the feed. He opened his own live stream. Spirit stones started arriving from spectators who were now paying Jang Chun to watch Li Muja lose the invasion he had purchased. The reversal appealed to Jang Chun on multiple levels. Li Muja had paid for the subjugation order, paid for his failed stream, supplied enemies worth energy, and was now helping Jang Chun create entertainment revenue. By the time Li Muja ordered a retreat, 4 Centaur chieftains had already blocked the teleportation gate. His remaining sharpshooters and hero died one after another, while the Lord himself lost an arm to an overenthusiastic horse one. Li Muja collapsed and started calling Jang Chun Big Brother, with a sincerity he had never shown at school. The audience went quiet because killing a noble heir would create consequences far beyond the battlefield. Ingman broke the silence first, praising the rare sight of someone actually following through after being threatened. Then she tipped Jang Chun 10,000 spirit stones. He privately wondered whether the Qin descendant carried money in a separate dimension. Li Muja offered everything he owned in exchange for his life. Jang Chun ordered him to reveal his balance. The number was more than 328,000 spirit stones. For a commoner who had entered on a student loan, the scale of family wealth behind Li Muja was almost insulting. Jang Chun decided the attacker could keep breathing, but his army had already forfeited mercy. Horse 1 and the centaurs executed the surviving hero and troops while Li Muja watched helplessly. Only after the force was gone did Jang Chun accept the full transfer of 328,710 spirit stones. He kept his word and allowed Li Muja to leave through the teleportation gate. Some viewers called that restraint. Lin Mo mocked Jang Chun for talking like a fearless commoner and still refusing to kill a noble. Jang Chun answered that he would never challenge an important family, but Lin Mo was welcome to visit if he brought enough spirit stones for admission. Then he closed the stream before the argument could become repetitive. The Empress approached with an expression Jang Chun had never expected to see from her, a pout. She wanted to know why an enemy had attacked their home while the territory's strongest hero was forbidden to fight. Jang Chun explained that revealing her on a public stream would destroy future profits. If every wealthy rookie knew a legendary empress guarded the territory, nobody would ever buy another invasion order against him. Every attacker was a potential source of spirit stones, energy loot, and compensation. The empress was his secret weapon, and secret weapons only worked while people still believed they had a chance. She accepted the logic on one condition. The next day's hero ranking had to give her a real opportunity to show strength. Jang Chun accepted the condition and promised her the ranking fight. The Empress still questioned whether releasing Li Muja for money was worth allowing a hostile heir to survive. Jang Chun looked at his new balance and understood the value differently. The Creation Divine Stone consumed spirit stones for every important upgrade after the 3 free uses were gone. 300,000 stones were not a ransom payment in his mind. To Jang Chun, those stones were upgrade fuel. Jang Chun immediately demonstrated by upgrading 1 ordinary spirit stone into a high-grade crystal for 1,000 spirit stones. He tossed it to the Empress and told her to restore heavenly sound as quickly as possible. She stared at the stone because resources of that purity had caused wars in her original world. Jang Chun had produced one casually from the money of a man who tried to rob him. Her affection finally reached 90 points. The system marked the relationship as intimate, and the Empress began referring to herself with a much more personal title than subordinate. Jang Chun decided expensive rocks had incredible diplomatic power across dimensions. Elsewhere, Ingman and Ming Tian reviewed the live stream with very different expectations about Jang Chun's future. Ingman considered recruiting him as a vassal, because his growth, judgment, and resource control were already unusual enough to matter. Ming Tian dismissed the idea at first. She reminded Ingman that imperial expectations extended through multiple heavens, while Jang Chun still looked like a talented regional lord with lucky opportunities. Ingman pointed back to Zhu Yuanzhang, the same historical underdog used in the mayor's opening speech. Mingtian dryly answered that tens of thousands of years had produced only one such figure, making the story terrible as statistical advice. They believed their epic farmers and family reserves would still let Ingman match the next territory upgrade. At that exact time, Jang Chun selected the level 2 upgrade on his Lord's Hall. He now had enough refined wood, stone, and iron, and the normal timer would have taken 2 hours. Because Ingman's information network bothered him, Jang Chun spent another 1,200 spirit stones and completed it instantly. The territory expanded to 10,000 square meters and unlocked new structures such as the archery range and crystal mine. Jang Chun had progressed so quickly that the Heavenly Tao had not even announced the formal level 2 ranking event yet. The speed created its own problems. His infrastructure lagged behind the territory size, food stores were thin, housing capacity was inadequate, and refined materials still required manual conversion. Jang Chun purchased 10,000 units of food and upgraded every house before the population became a liability. Then he spent nearly an hour tapping resources through the Creation Divine Stone one batch at a time. The cheat was absurdly powerful, but it still expected him to perform the magical equivalent of factory labor with his own fingers. Jang Chun concluded that manual upgrading would eventually become a bigger bottleneck than money. By evening, his next opportunity was waiting in the mountain of treasure chests from the centaur battle. He had 58 fine chests and more than 200 normal ones. Because fine chests could contain blueprints, Jang Chun upgraded every normal chest to fine quality for 100 spirit stones each. More than 20,000 spirit stones disappeared, leaving the territory floor covered in glowing containers. He opened the first batch personally and learned that the creation divine stone could not upgrade his luck. One chest produced ordinary refined wood. Another treasure chest released a cloud of poison gas. A third returned only 30 spirit stones after he had spent 100 upgrading it. After roughly 30 disappointing attempts, Jang Chun stopped gambling against himself. He called the Empress over and told her to open 3. Her first produced an arrow tower blueprint. Her second produced rare refined steel armor. Her third produced a farmland blueprint. Jang Chun looked at his poison gas, looked at her 2 blueprints, and appointed a new territory position on the spot. From that moment forward, opening treasure chests was the Empress's responsibility. She accepted without realizing she had become chief box opening officer because her lord's hands appeared cosmically cursed. The Empress opened the remaining fine chests with results so good that Jang Chun stopped pretending the difference was coincidence. Blueprints, rare armor, troop souls, a hero's, and useful resources appeared at a rate his own attempts had never approached. One skill book contained Torrent Palm, a technique capable of manipulating a target's body fluids at high mastery. Jang Chun stored that particular item without exploring the implications too deeply. 7 total blueprints emerged from the session, including farmland, kitchen construction, and more arrow towers. The Empress eventually noticed the pattern and asked whether her lord had delegated the job because his own hands were cursed. Jang Chun responded with wounded authority. The Empress laughed openly, comfortable enough at 90 affection to tease him without fearing the old ruler's subordinate distance. Jang Chun had more important uses for the blueprints anyway. He selected 4 arrow tower plans and pushed each one through the creation divine stone into Tower of Heaven's Wrath blueprints. The upgrades cost 20,000 spirit stones apiece before construction and level improvements were even counted. By the time all 4 towers reached level 2, Jang Chun had invested roughly 140,000 spirit stones in fixed defenses. The result justified the pain. Each Tower of Heaven's Wrath carried around 72 stars of destructive power, a 300-meter range, rapid fire, explosive arrows, and a heavy attack called Fury of the Burning Sky. The towers rose 10 meters high with glowing red runes and condensed spheres of violent energy burning at their crowns. Dragon 9 studied them and admitted the new defenses felt dangerous even to her legendary body. Jang Chun scratched her head and asked whether the Dragon Squad had followed his advice after the Centaur battle. The Dragon Squad had followed every instruction. The dragons were now practicing breathing exercises to increase the duration of dark breath without exhausting themselves after a single pass. Legendary war beasts had turned cardio training into a military objective. At nightfall, Jang Chun recalled every dragon, even from unguarded resource points, because the dark bait experiment was finally ready. The Empress returned from cultivation eager for a serious fight. Her heavenly sound technique had already climbed into expert mastery, and her combat power at level 4 had risen to roughly 107 stars. Jang Chun had watched her begin the day at 26. Combination of regained technique, upgraded spirit stones, and early levels had multiplied her threat faster than even he expected. Around her stood 12 legendary dragons, 12 excellent centaurs, and 4 Heaven's Wrath towers. Jang Chun removed the dark bait from storage and decided ordinary quality was no longer entertaining enough. For 100 spirit stones, he upgraded it into advanced dark bait before activation. The object radiated such concentrated malice that even the Empress instinctively leaned away from it. Jang Chun threw it into the air and triggered the effect. Black lightning split the night sky from an impossible height, bright enough to alarm lords across the region. More bolts followed while spatial cracks opened along the edges of Jang Chun's fog of war. Pairs of red eyes appeared inside the rifts. Rare black crows came first, followed by dark rangers, phantom mages, greater ghosts, evil eye, and other creatures far beyond a normal level 2 wave. Then a nightmare steed walked through the largest rift. Its rider was a 5-star epic terror duke at level 10, with roughly 128 stars of combat power. One more star of quality would have pushed the creature into legendary evolution territory. Jang Chun realized the nighttime multiplier had produced something far stronger than the bait's normal description suggested. His reaction was not regret. A stronger monster meant a stronger payout. Across the zone, Wei Ming woke to black lightning and assumed either a divine beast, rare treasure, or catastrophic invasion had appeared nearby. Farther away, Ingman wanted to investigate, until Ming Tian pointed out that traveling 100 kilometers at night would arrive long after the crisis ended. Ming Tian predicted some unlucky lord would probably die near the phenomenon. Neither woman knew the unlucky lord had ordered the invasion on purpose. Back at the territory, the Terror Duke advanced through bowing dark creatures and started delivering a grand speech about granting painless death. Jang Chun was unwilling to listen to a villain monologue from a monster he had personally paid to summon. He ordered all 4 towers to use Fury of the Burning Sky on the boss. 4 streams of burning force crossed the field and detonated around the Terror Duke before the speech could finish. Nearby monsters vanished as collateral damage. The Empress protested because Jang Chun had promised the boss to her. He pointed out that the Terror Duke was still alive and handed the damaged target over. The epic monster emerged from the flames wounded, enraged, and finally interested in fighting instead of talking. Jang Chun ordered full deployment. 12 dragons rose over the territory. The Centaur chieftains formed a defensive perimeter, and the towers switched to explosive arrows during their major skill cooldown. The Empress launched directly at the Terror Duke. Jang Chun stepped backward into the Lord's Hall. Dark armies sometimes contained invisible assassins, trained to bypass troops and kill lords, and his territory still lacked reliable true-sight defenses. The Lord's Hall was the safest command position until an attacker could break its durability, which no enemy on the field was close to doing. Jang Chun preferred being called cautious to becoming a heroic corpse. The Terror Duke noticed the black dragons and immediately tried claiming one as a future legendary mount. The Empress interrupted the fantasy with heavenly sound. 9 kills. 9 sword-like waves of sonic force trapped the epic monster and tore open wounds faster than its raw attributes suggested should be possible. The Terror Duke had slightly more listed combat power than the Empress. Her near-perfect technique mastery erased that advantage. She controlled distance, timing, and rhythm so completely that the supposed boss spent most of the fight trying to regain initiative. Elsewhere, the Dark Army discovered the same problem on a larger scale. Level 7 to 10 enemies sounded dangerous until excellent creatures with 50 stars met legendary dragons built to laugh at that number. Dark Breath Claws, Tower Fight, and Centaur Volleys turned the wave into an energy harvest. Jang Chun's log climbed past 80,000 energy within minutes. He considered leveling the Empress immediately to end the duel. Then he saw the expression on her face. She was genuinely enjoying the first opponent since summoning who could survive more than a casual attack. Jang Chun left her at the current level and let the battle continue while everything else remained controlled. The Terror Duke eventually realized its army was collapsing and pretended to reveal a final form. The Empress actually became excited for half a second. Then the monster turned and ran toward the spatial rift. Dragon 9 and 3 others were already positioned across the escape route because Jang Chun had expected exactly that move. The Terror Duke tried persuading the Black Dragons to betray humanity and join a fellow creature of darkness. Dragon 9 became personally offended and insisted they were not dark creatures, merely dragons with naturally darker skin. Jang Chun nearly lost command composure when she accused the Terror Duke of being racist. The boss had run out of useful tricks. Jang Chun spent energy and raised the Empress 2 levels in the middle of combat. Her power surged to around 150 stars, instantly refilling the gap the Terror Duke had barely maintained. The monster watched its opponent become stronger without training, retreat, or preparation, and finally understood that Jang Chun controlled the pace of the fight. The Empress thanked her lord for letting her enjoy the duel before finishing it. The Terror Duke demanded warrior honor. She answered with another 9 kills. Fresh power and superior mastery shredded the battered epic monster and its nightmare steed before either could reach the rift. The death notification made Jang Chun shout aloud. The Terror Duke dropped 180,000 energy, 20,000 spirit stones, an epic treasure chest, epic phantom armor, and a mid-grade physique book. Most important, it dropped an epic troop token. Upgrading a normal troop token to epic through the creation divine stone would cost around 1 million spirit stones. This one had fallen directly from a monster that Jang Chun had summoned with a cheap piece of bait. The remaining dark creatures tried fleeing after their commander died. Jang Chun refused to let rare and excellent enemies carry unused energy back into another dimension. He ordered the Empress to eliminate every survivor. The Crimson Holy Word finally showed why Jang Chun had paid 20,000 spirit stones for it. The Empress released Blood Arc, sending a wide crescent of crimson energy through a cluster of dark creatures and cutting them apart in one sweep. Even the dragons looked slightly unsettled by how efficiently she erased enemies that would have been bosses for ordinary rookies. Minutes later, the Empress closed her eyes, checked the field, and reported that no invader remained alive. Jang Chun brushed a loose strand of hair from her face and praised the result. The woman who had just carved through an army became visibly flustered by the casual touch. He rewarded her with 10 high-grade spirit stones instead of commenting on the reaction. Dragon 9 immediately inserted her enormous head between them and demanded recognition for the squad's work. Jang Chun gave her a head pat. She stared at the spirit stones in the Empress's hands and complained that her reward seemed dramatically cheaper. Jang Chun reminded her that dragons could not cultivate with spirit stones and would probably just hoard them because they were shiny. Dragon 9 did not deny the accusation. The official battle report recorded hundreds of rare enemies, dozens of excellent enemies, 1 epic boss, 0 casualty, and a B rank evaluation. The B rank evaluation itself added another 2,000 spirit stones, 20,000 energy, and 2 fine chests on top of the direct monster drops. Jang Chun barely reacted because the difference between rating rewards and battlefield loot had already become obvious once epic enemies entered the equation. The full collection pushed total energy from the night above 600,000, enough to raise multiple legendary units or create an entirely new high-tier squad. Spirit stones from direct kills and the Terror Duke climbed by tens of thousands as well, replenishing part of the money spent on towers and upgraded bait. The battlefield also produced excellent and rare troop souls, attribute books, and equipment whose individual value would have defined another rookie's entire first day. Jang Chun's inability to feel impressed by fine equipment anymore was becoming a genuine economic advantage because sentimental attachment never stopped him from selling transitional gear early. The epic Phantom armor was different because its 3 abilities solved weaknesses Jang Chun personally could not delegate to a troop standing several meters away. Fearbite offered control, Phantom Guard added defensive protection, and Ghostwalk gave invisibility useful against assassination attempts or emergency retreat. His logic for wearing it was simple. A territory could replace buildings and soldiers, but the entire domain ended if the Lord himself died. The mid-grade physique book added 10 physical points permanently, a meaningful jump compared with the single point earned from the Centaur drop earlier that day. Jang Chun joked internally that he had progressed from old-person park exercises toward being somewhat survivable if an ordinary monster slipped through every defense. The epic troop token carried a different kind of uncertainty, because battlefield forums claimed boss drop tokens sometimes summoned unusually strong races within the listed quality. Nobody had proven the rumor, but Jang Chun still hoped the Terror Duke's near-legendary status had influenced what waited behind the portal. Cynthia's arrival immediately felt different from the blank dragons because the goddess warriors presented themselves as individuals with history instead of newly created military pieces. Their claim of 10,000 years of existence suggested the summon had pulled from another civilization's crisis, rather than generating a generic epic troop template. They had voluntarily surrendered immortality and previous power because answering the Lord's call offered some unknown hope for the continuation of their race. That sacrifice created a debt in Cynthia's mind before Jang Chun ever gave an order, explaining why free levels later felt almost insulting rather than generous. Cynthia carried 3-star epic quality, while the other warriors generally began at 2 stars, giving the commander a small but important edge in raw growth. Her level 1 physical attribute reached roughly 22 while spirit, soul, and load remained far lower, confirming an extreme specialization rather than balanced design. Thunder War Body amplified that specialization, and the innate Thunder Divine Spear plus Thunder Divine Armor and ordinary equipment upgrades would never determine their combat ceiling. Jang Chun compared the build to famous golden behemoths that concentrated so completely on physical power they could tear apart larger creatures despite similar overall ratings. That comparison mattered because listed combat power averaged multiple stats, while a specialized melee fighter could dominate one dimension of a fight without looking extraordinary on paper. The goddess warriors therefore represented a category of threat Jang Chun's rivals might underestimate even after seeing them, much like they underestimated the creation divine stone itself. Jang Chun raised all 12 to level 5 before they had contributed a single kill because he preferred investing before battle instead of sending underleveled troops to earn their own safety. Cynthia interpreted the choice through warrior culture rather than economic logic and decided the squad had accepted reward without merit. Giselle reinforced the conclusion, and their midnight hunt became a voluntary repayment plan nobody in Jang Chun's territory had requested. The energy gained while Jang Chun slept proved the arrangement was sustainable. Honor turned into labor. Labor turned into kills, and kills returned energy to the same lord who had advanced them. That self-starting behavior was why Jang Chun considered the goddess warriors his best troop acquisition, despite already owning legendary dragons of higher listed quality. The dragons were loyal and powerful, but they still needed tactical instruction, breathing practice, and occasional reminders that roaring was not a substitute for reconnaissance. Cynthia's squad arrived with discipline already built into their identity and only needed permission to apply it somewhere productive. The midnight trade listings from Jang Chun's equipment pile created another indirect clue that a major battle had happened near his territory without revealing the dark wave mechanism. Viewers saw armor and monster drops mixed with forged iron weapons, which made it impossible to tell where production ended and hunting began. Some concluded Jang Chun had already reached level 2, because only a higher blacksmith could explain the volume, while others insisted he had discovered an absurd loot zone. Both theories preserved the central secret that his territory could deliberately summon stronger monsters for farming through upgraded bait. The public buy orders for seeds and more bait made Jang Chun look like a wealthy builder scaling operations rather than a lord preparing to weaponize monster waves. Wei Ming's sleepless fear the next morning demonstrated how completely accidental misinformation could protect that secret without Jang Chun needing to manufacture evidence. The destroyed goblin camp carried real dark residue from Dragon 9, making Wei Ming's invasion theory internally consistent, even though the supposed Dark Army was a single friendly scout group. Jang Chun chose not to correct the misunderstanding, because scared neighbors were less likely to wander near his territory during future experiments with dangerous bait. The same principle of letting others complete the story for him had already protected the Divine Stone after the level 1 record, and would later protect the Tiger Kill. Jang Chun's most effective deception technique was repeatedly doing something impossible, telling part of the truth, and allowing people to choose the wrong explanation because the full answer sounded too absurd. By the second morning, that pattern had become almost as valuable as the creation Divine Stone itself, because raw power without information control would have united every rival against him much earlier. The upcoming Tiger Raid and Hero ranking would test whether the pattern still worked once Jang Chun's name moved from interesting commoner to the strongest visible competitor in town. He had already crossed the line where anonymity was possible, so the next goal was not hiding success, but controlling which mechanism people believed produced it. That distinction shaped every decision on the flight toward Shuatia's territory, including why Dragon 9 traveled above normal scouting height and why the Empress stayed off public calls. The rating was lower than the 6-second A-rank opener, because this fight had lasted more than 11 minutes. Jang Chun no longer cared once the real loot total arrived. Energy from the full wave exceeded 500,000 before counting what he had already collected during combat, and stones came in by the tens of thousands. He had turned one knight, one bait item, and a fortified level 2 territory into more growth than many rookies would see in weeks. The Phantom Armor became Jang Chun's personal equipment immediately. It granted physical, spirit, and soul attributes plus fear control, defensive protection, and ghost walk invisibility. Jang Chun did not pretend he was a frontline warrior. The ability to become harder to assassinate was more valuable to him than another offensive sword he would never swing. He also used the mid-grade physique book, gaining 10 permanent physical points. His body was still nowhere near the Empress or dragons, but it had moved beyond helpless school exercise territory. Before sleeping, Jang Chun removed the Epic Troop token and activated it. A golden portal formed above the territory, drawing every powerful unit close enough to watch. The first figure to emerge was a tall woman in golden armor carrying twin short spears wrapped in lightning. 11 more armored goddess warriors followed through the portal. Their commander introduced herself as Cynthia, leader of the goddess warriors. Unlike the Black Dragons, these epic troops already possessed individual names, which immediately threatened Jang Chun's favorite managerial tradition. Cynthia explained that the goddess warriors belonged to an immortal race more than 10,000 years old. They had voluntarily sacrificed eternal life and much of their former power to answer the summon and seek hope for their people. Jang Chun treated the sacrifice seriously for several seconds before offering to improve their names. The Empress mentioned Dragon 1 and Dragon 2 as evidence that the offer should probably be declined. Cynthia immediately insisted the names they had carried for 10 millennia were perfectly adequate. Jang Chun considered that direct sabotage of lordly authority. Cynthia's stats restored his good mood. At level 1, the 3-star epic commander had enormous physical attributes concentrated far beyond her balanced combat rating. Her build focused on Thunder War body, Spear Mastery, Thunder Throw, and innate divine equipment that could not be separated from her. The other 11 goddess warriors were 2-star epics with the same extreme physical specialization. On paper, their combat power looked lower than the dragons. In close-range combat, their min-maxed bodies and scaling equipment made them capable of challenging units well above that simple number. Jang Chun immediately spent more than 200,000 energy and raised all 12 goddess warriors to level 5. Then he pushed the 12 dragons to level 5 as well. More than 380,000 energy vanished within seconds, leaving only a reserve for unexpected problems. Jang Chun finally ordered everyone to rest. Cynthia interpreted the free levels as a debt against her warrior honor. She gathered the goddess warriors after Jang Chun walked away and announced they would hunt monsters all night to repay the investment through blood. Her lieutenant Giselle agreed immediately. The entire epic squad marched into the darkness to grind energy without being asked. Jang Chun decided their guilt-based work ethic might be the best troop trait he had recruited so far. The Empress followed Jang Chun toward the Lord's Hall, while the goddess warriors vanished into the night. Before sleeping, he listed more than 100 unused pieces of iron equipment and posted buy orders for seeds, blueprints, bait, and other useful materials. A notification arrived almost immediately that Cynthia had already killed her first monster. The woman had barely left the territory and was farming the investment back before Jang Chun could close his eyes. Then the Empress appeared in the bedroom doorway and asked where she was supposed to sleep. The level 2 houses outside were barely comfortable enough for farmers, much less the legendary ruler Jang Chun had promised to respect. He offered to share the Lord's quarters rather than pretend the wooden huts counted as dignified accommodation. The Empress looked at his casual invitation, called him completely lacking in gentlemanly awareness, and chose the floor with a blanket. Jang Chun kept the bed because allowing the Lord to surrender his own mattress seemed like terrible governance. Outside, Newbie Town 86 spent the night panicking over the black lightning Jang Chun had summoned deliberately. Wei Ming posted images of the sky and warned nearby lords that some unknown disaster might be moving through the fog. Ingman offered money for close-range images because her curiosity remained stronger than her sense of self-preservation. When the lightning stopped without a single death announcement, the zone became even more confused. Then, Jang Chun's midnight trade listings appeared. More than 100 pieces of equipment suggested he had cleared a major monster camp, while his level 2 blacksmith products confirmed another territory upgrade. His buy orders made the commoner look even stranger, because he was spending at a scale usually associated with major families. The hero-ranking betting pool also grew through the night, until hundreds of thousands of spirit stones were committed. Most wagers concentrated on Lin Mo and Ingman. Almost nobody considered Jang Chun a serious candidate, because his visible strength consisted of centaurs, resources, and unexplained luck. He slept extremely well knowing the ignorance had financial value. The next morning, Jang Chun opened the town channel and saw Chuatia asking for allies against the epic monster near her territory. Yesterday, she had expected her upgraded cavalry to handle the target after receiving 22 refined iron swords. Now she looked exhausted enough to have learned something expensive. Jang Chun called and asked what went wrong. Chuatia explained that the black-striped tiger's scouting information had been false because the creature possessed a disguise skill. The target was still around level 10, but it was not an ordinary monster. It was an epic demon race hero commanding excellent ghost servants under a B-rank command buff. That command talent increased the servant's stats enough to invalidate nearly every plan Chuatia had prepared. Jang Chun responded with sympathy and immediate jealousy. A level 10 epic hero only 3 kilometers from her territory represented roughly 200,000 energy plus boss-quality loot. Chuatia wanted help surviving it. Jang Chun wanted help converting it into resources. He promised to come if the route was safe, then admitted his territory was roughly 100 kilometers away. Chuatia almost shouted him out of the expedition. Crossing 100 kilometers of unexplored battlefield with rookie forces was dangerous no matter how strong a single unit looked. Jang Chun agreed with the principle, then checked the energy accumulated overnight. His balance was higher than when he went to bed. The goddess warriors had hunted from midnight until dawn simply because accepting free levels made them feel indebted. That extra energy solved the travel problem. Jang Chun called Dragon 9 back and spent 156,000 energy, pushing her from level 5 all the way to level 10. Her body expanded from a large juvenile into a 10-meter legendary dragon with a wingspan approaching 20 meters. Dragon 9 stared at herself, then suspiciously asked whether Jang Chun had been mind-controlled into sudden generosity. The Empress looked equally curious. Jang Chun told Dragon 9 not to worry, because he only wanted to ride her. The level 10 breakthrough had unlocked passenger flight. Dragon 9 could now carry Jang Chun and several companions across enormous distances without relying on roads, gates, or unknown ground terrain. Her combat power had also climbed to around 180 stars. The orphan who entered with a landscaping talent now had a legendary dragon mount before his second day was properly underway. Chuatia's public recruitment attracted every ambitious lord close enough to smell epic loot. Some offered troops, others complained about distance, and even the one-armed Li Muja reappeared to say he would have helped if Jang Chun had not destroyed his army. Jang Chun nearly lost breakfast reading the message. Lin Mo offered something more useful, an anywhere door, a one-use teleportation item with a range of several hundred kilometers. He was willing to burn it for a chance at the epic boss. Chuati accepted him into the coalition and set the rally for 11:30 in the morning. The hero combat ranking would settle at noon, creating a tight schedule between raid and reward. Jang Chun had no reason to rush because Dragon 9 could cover the distance quickly. He decided to open treasure chests, eat breakfast, fly to the boss, take whatever contribution he earned, and return before the ranking settlement. The Empress resumed her position as designated chest opener. The epic chest from the Terror Duke produced 100 units of Dragon Fong rice. Jang Chun immediately recognized the item as an epic superfood with long-term stat benefits and a chance to improve troop stars. The effect was weak on legendary troops but particularly valuable for epic goddess warriors. Each grain was enormous, crystalline, and heavy enough that 100 units represented tons of food rather than a pantry bag. An excellent chest also produced an anywhere door identical to the expensive item Lin Mo had just advertised. Jang Chun received his for free while Lin Mo was spending a fortune to reach the same raid. Breakfast became Dragon Fong rice porridge. Dragon 9 begged for a portion despite previously mocking higher dragon cuisine she had never tasted. The cooked rice released visible spiritual energy and produced immediate physical and spirit gains even for Jang Chun. He recalled the goddess warriors from their overnight hunt so they could eat before the expedition. Cynthia tried refusing because the food was too precious to waste on soldiers who had not repaid yesterday's energy debt. Giselle looked even more distressed by the idea of accepting another benefit. Jang Chun ordered them to eat because he needed them strong, not spiritually bankrupt from honor accounting. After breakfast, he climbed onto Dragon 9 with the Empress Cynthia and Giselle, filling the available passenger slots. Dragon 9 launched into the clouds and carried them toward Chuatia's territory. At roughly the same time, Ingman and Ming Tian were preparing their own approach from far away. Their Iron Eagle combination troops could fly, but the distance meant they expected Chuatia's coalition to start fighting before they arrived. Ming Tian suggested letting the other lords weaken the boss, then swooping in late to finish it. Ingman worried that stealing the kill after Chuatia organized the raid felt dishonorable. Ming Tian reminded her that battlefield survival rewarded strength, not etiquette, and suggested compensating everyone with money afterward. Ingman accepted that solution because imperial wealth had apparently turned guilt into a negotiable expense. Elsewhere, Wei Ming suffered the consequences of Jang Chun's nighttime experiment in a different way. He had stayed awake all night guarding against the supposed dark invasion and finally led his exhausted troops toward a goblin camp protecting an iron mine. The goblin settlement had already been destroyed. Horses covered the ground, buildings were burned, and dark energy still lingered over the battlefield. Wei Ming's hero concluded the massacre had happened only minutes earlier. Wei Ming immediately connected it to the Black Lightning and posted an emergency warning that dark invaders were still operating nearby. Jang Chun saw the photograph while flying and recognized the camp instantly. Dragon 9 had passed over it 15 minutes earlier, and Jang Chun had ordered a quick dark breath strike because free energy was free energy. The attack took less than a minute and never seemed important enough to mention. Now half the zone believed the mythical dark invasion had continued into daylight. Dragon 9 pointed out that her attack skill was literally named Dark Breath. Jang Chun told her to fly faster rather than contribute more evidence against him. Lords locked down their territories while the terrifying invader calmly crossed the sky, upgraded snacks into spirit food, and listed them on the trading post mid-flight. During the journey, Jang Chun raised his own level to 10 and equipped the epic phantom armor properly. For the first time, he visually resembled the powerful lord his actual army suggested he should be. Dragon 9 reached Chuatia's region around 11, roughly half an hour before the coalition rally. From the air, she spotted the black-striped tiger demon inside a canyon that controlled the only useful mountain pass. The real target was level 11 rather than level 10, another detail hidden by the disguise ability. Its epic hero quality gave it roughly 115 stars plus B-rank command over excellent ghost servants. The tiger noticed the arriving dragon and judged the newcomers with open contempt. Dragon 9 then announced she had found Jang Chun's girlfriend. Jang Chun nearly asked her to repeat herself until she clarified that Chuatia's force was 2 kilometers west. He mentally added a muzzle to the territory's future shopping list. Jang Chun chose not to join the coalition directly. The hero-ranking betting pool had not settled, and revealing a legendary dragon plus the Empress in front of dozens of lords could destroy his payout. He wanted the tiger dead without witnesses. Cynthia requested permission for herself and Giselle to handle the fight alone. The goddess warriors had spent all night trying to repay their energy debt, and their pride still wanted a meaningful battle. Jang Chun gave them 10 minutes. If they failed, the Empress would finish the boss. Cynthia and Giselle activated Thunder War Body. Lightning wrapped their armor, their eyes turned electric blue, and both women launched forward hard enough to crack the ground. The tiger's confidence changed the moment two human-sized warriors crossed the distance like artillery shells. It opened a black void and released 12 enslaved ghost servants of multiple races, including an enormous whale warrior. Cynthia met the whale directly. Her body strike detonated the 5-meter ghost into dark mist, while lightning prevented its spiritual form from rebuilding. For an instant, the ghost's expression looked relieved to be freed from the tiger's control. The kill alone awarded the kind of energy ordinary rookies expected from entire encounters. The tiger tried retreating, but Giselle intercepted it head-on. Her listed combat power was lower because of her extreme stat distribution, yet her physical attribute nearly matched the much larger demon. Their collision threw both fighters backward, and the tiger came away with a deep wound across its forehead. Level differences still mattered, so Giselle slowly lost ground when fighting alone. Cynthia erased the remaining servants and joined her before that disadvantage became serious. Two goddess warriors boxed the tiger between lightning, spear strikes, and physical force it could no longer escape. Within minutes, Giselle landed the killing blow. The epic demon hero dropped more than 200,000 energy, 30,000 spirit stones, and an epic hero token. Jang Chun physically jumped when he saw the token. Hero summon tokens were even rarer than most boss loot, and an epic one could produce a second top-tier hero without spending another fortune on upgrades. The complete haul exceeded 300,000 energy and 40,000 spirit stones. One servants and secondary drops were included. Jang Chun stored the tiger's massive corpse as well, because demon beast materials retained value after death. From arrival to departure, the entire raid had taken around 10 minutes. Jang Chun ordered Dragon 9 home before Chuatia's coalition arrived and asked nobody for credit. He opened the trading post during the flight and placed his final bet on the hero ranking, while the odds still assumed he was irrelevant. Roughly half an hour later, Ingman and Ming Tian arrived first from another direction. Expecting to steal a weakened boss, they found a blood-soaked canyon and no tiger. Ming Tian inspected the battlefield and concluded a small force had killed the epic hero before either major coalition arrived. Ingman suggested perhaps the tiger had run away, which even Ming Tian found difficult to entertain. Then Chuatia's army entered the canyon with dozens of lords and around 1,000 troops. Everyone saw Ingman standing inside the empty boss arena. Lin Mo immediately accused her of taking the kill before the coalition could begin. Ingman had genuinely planned to do exactly that, which made denying the accusation much less convincing than it should have been. Far above them, Jang Chun laughed hard enough that the Empress had to steady him on Dragon 9's back. He had the loot. Two rival groups were arguing over responsibility, and nobody suspected the entertainment lord who never officially arrived. The misunderstanding at the Tiger Canyon became dangerous. Before anyone could calm it, Ingman insisted the boss was already gone when she arrived, while Lin Mo stared at the battlefield and assumed denial was beneath an imperial descendant. Then a minor lord named Zhang Hao made the worst possible contribution. He questioned whether refusing to admit the kill reflected the values taught by the first emperor. Chuatia tried stopping him, but the insult had already reached Ming Tian. The 1,000-year-old epic hero moved before most people understood the conversation had changed into a fight. Her yin-yang unified seal erupted through the troops standing between her and Zhang Hao. Dozens of soldiers and an elite hero were thrown backward with broken bodies, dead before they finished landing. Ming Tian crossed the remaining distance and cut off both of Zhang Hao's arms with 2 clean movements. She reminded him that Jang Chun had taken 1 arm from Li Mujia yesterday, while she was taking 2 for insulting the imperial line. Ingman cheerfully told the screaming lord that modern hospitals could reattach the limbs after the first return to Blue Star. She even offered to reimburse the medical bill if he kept the correct receipt. Zhang Hao responded by blaming Jang Chun for somehow starting an arm-cutting trend, despite not being anywhere near the canyon. The spectacle had one immediate financial consequence. Every lord present had now seen Ming Tian erase dozens of troops with a single technique. The hero combat ranking would settle in less than half an hour. People stopped arguing about the missing tiger and started moving spirit stones into the betting pool. Ingman became the overwhelming favorite because the visible difference between Ming Tian and ordinary heroes looked impossible to overcome. Even injured lords rushed to place bets before the pool locked. Lin Mo suddenly looked physically sick. He had bet 200,000 spirit stones on himself because his excellent hero had seemed more than enough to win a rookie ranking. Ming Tian's demonstration destroyed that assumption. Lin Mo began borrowing money from friends so he could hedge his loss by betting on Ingman instead. The pool's final odds promised roughly 28% return to anyone who backed her. People treated it like guaranteed interest rather than gambling. They praised Zhang Hao for getting his arms removed at exactly the right time to reveal useful information. Then, somebody noticed a tiny anomaly in the betting ledger. A little over 10,000 spirit stones had been placed on Jang Chun. The town assumed the delusional entertainment lord had bet on himself, despite having no visible hero strong enough to challenge Lin Mo, much less Ming Tian. Lin Mo laughed because even his excellent hero should have crushed anything Jang Chun had publicly shown. Zhang Chun, still flying home, stared at the same ledger and noticed the wager was 100 spirit stones larger than his own bet. Somebody else had backed him. Chuatia called before he could investigate. She was too busy managing the failed boss coalition for video, which conveniently prevented her from noticing Zhang Chun was currently on a legendary dragon. Chuatia warned him that Ming Tian had displayed at least excellent, probably epic combat ability. Then she casually mentioned betting 500,000 spirit stones on Ingman, because the 28% return looked guaranteed. Zhang Chun needed a moment to process the fact that the classmate who had defended him all day had just wagered 500,000 against him. Chuacha remained completely cheerful because she believed the decision was basic mathematics rather than disloyalty. Zhang Chun asked her to investigate Ingman's background during the first Blue Star return on day 3. He also suggested she ask her family for more money when the bet paid out. Chuacha called him adorable for worrying about her finances. Zhang Chun ended the call thinking about how many favors she would owe after he personally absorbed her 500,000 stone loss. Ming Tian's displayed strength did create one legitimate concern. Zhang Chun had never seen her full stats, and thousands of years of experience could let an epic hero outperform a simple combat number. He decided the Empress needed insurance. While sitting behind her on Dragon 9, he tapped the Empress's waist and began spending energy. She stiffened and warned that if he wanted to hold someone improperly, he could go bother Cynthia instead. Then 4 consecutive level-up lights descended. The Empress rose through levels 7, 8, 9, and 10, consuming roughly 270,000 energy. Her combat power crossed 200 stars. Zhang Chun whispered that an entire day's hunting had effectively been converted into her personal ranking insurance. The Empress realized the waist tap had been part of the level-up activation and turned bright red. She apologized for assuming he was being inappropriate. Zhang Chun demonstrated the completely professional motion one more time, just to make sure the misunderstanding was settled. The Empress told him no further demonstrations were necessary. His communicator buzzed again moments later. Tu Sanya admitted she had placed the mysterious 100-stone wager on Zhang Chun seconds before betting closed. When he asked why, she immediately worried that his tone meant 100 had been too little. Then she saw the public reports about Ming Tian and began complaining that her money was probably gone. Zhang Chun asked whether Fox adults were always this loyal. Tu Sanya defended herself by reminding him that 10 years old was fully mature for her race. The argument only confirmed what Zhang Chun already suspected: the Fox girl was funny, calculating, and impossible to classify as harmless. Inside the zone channel, lords who had seen Ming Tian were arguing with those who still believed Lin Mo would take first place. The irony was that Lin Mo had secretly borrowed 100,000 spirit stones from Wei Ming and put it on Ingman. Wei Ming discovered the plan after lending him the money. He demanded to know why Lin Mo had not shared the information before accepting the loan. Lin Mo reminded him, with astonishing confidence, that he was still the debtor. Wei Ming immediately became polite because antagonizing the man who owed him money did not improve repayment odds. The Heavenly Dao countdown began. Zhang Chun knew the Empress should win, yet the scale of the pool made his palms sweat anyway. The ranking did not reveal first place immediately. The Heavenly Dao announced positions from 100 upward, one name at a time, as if it had learned a suspense from human competition shows. The first 90 names passed quickly. Then the top 10 began receiving pauses, extra visibility, and stronger reactions from every lord in the town. Wei Ming ranked 10th with his rare hero. That alone proved Newbie Town 86 was unusually stacked because a wealthy heir with a rare hero barely reached the final page. Tu Sanya unexpectedly placed 9th overall. The Fox girl had been acting like a helpless outsider while quietly hiding a rare hero strong enough to reach the top 10. When Zhang Chun reacted, she admitted she had also bet 100 spirit stones on herself. He realized she had spread tiny wagers across multiple candidates like a portfolio instead of trusting any single outcome. Chuatia also reached the top 10 with the rare hero and expensive troops her family had prepared. The famous names continued until only 3 positions remained. Third place went to Lin Mo and his excellent hero Garcia. Lin Mo went completely still. He had expected his hero to be first or at worst second behind Ming Tian. Third place meant another unknown hero was stronger than his excellent summon. The channel immediately started guessing hidden heirs, secret families, and possible bloodlines. Tu Xingya suggested that second place might belong to Jang Chun. Lin Mo dismissed the idea before the message had time to settle. The Heavenly Dao stretched the pause. Then the second place result finally appeared. Lord Ingman, Hero Ming Tian. Lin Mo openly called the ranking impossible because he had personally watched Ming Tian dominate troops his excellent hero could not match. Everyone who had treated Ingman's 28% return as guaranteed felt their stomach drop at the same time. Some had committed their entire rookie fortune. Others had borrowed money specifically because the outcome looked safe. The lords who bet on Lin Mo lost too, but at least they were spared the humiliation of calling a gamble guaranteed income minutes earlier. A much bigger question replaced the panic. If Ming Tian was only second, what kind of hero had taken first place? Someone recognized Ming Tian's name as matching a famous Qin figure from historical records and started wondering whether the connection was real. That possibility only made first place more frightening. Even Ingman did not look angry. Instead, Ingman seemed genuinely curious. Ming Tian, whose Qi observation had failed to read Jang Chun's strength, stopped sounding certain about the commoner's ceiling. The final golden letters formed slowly above the battlefield. First place belonged to Lord Jang Chun. His hero was listed only as Empress. The reward was an excellent treasure chest and 200 reputation points. For several seconds, the zone said nothing at all. Then the chat exploded so violently that the Heavenly Dao announcement faded before most people finished reacting. The same commoner with a White Lord heart, F-rank entertainment talent and landscaping ability had just beaten an Imperial Descendant's epic hero in raw combat power. Nobody knew whether the Empress herself was epic, legendary, or simply an excellent hero leveled far beyond normal limits. That uncertainty protected Jang Chun better than any lie he could have prepared. At the empty Tiger Canyon, Ingman asked Ming Tian whether Jang Chun could truly be an ordinary commoner. For the first time, Ming Tian answered with uncertainty instead of analysis. Chhuatia stared at the sky and remembered Jang Chun telling her to ask home for more money. He had known she was betting against him and said nothing. Her first reaction was not anger. She decided that since Jang Chun always rejected direct financial help, losing 500,000 stones to his wager could count as finally giving him money successfully. Lin Mo nearly collapsed on the spot. His excellent hero had to support him while he calculated the savings lost on himself, the hedge lost on Ingman, and the debt borrowed from friends. He briefly considered buying a city transfer token and running somewhere with fewer monsters disguised as commoners. Some ordinary lords reacted even worse. They blamed Jang Chun for ruining the bet and demanded he refund the money they would have earned if Ingman had placed first. Chhuatia called the argument what it was, anger at someone else because greed had produced a loss. Ingman stepped beside her and asked whether those lords were planning to punish Jang Chun for possessing a stronger hero. The loudest complainer remembered Ming Tian and became much less interested in justice. Ingman ordered the group to disappear and grind, instead of inventing enemies for their bad decisions. The angry gamblers scattered almost immediately. Before leaving, Ingman spontaneously declared Chhuatia her new little sister. Chhuai accepted the new sisterhood immediately. Ingman immediately transferred 1 million spirit stones as pocket money. Chhuatia stood in the canyon staring at a 7-digit balance created by a relationship less than a minute old. Ming Tian and Ingman flew away afterward, and Ingman finally expressed the conclusion she had hidden from everyone else. She was now convinced Jang Chun had killed the tiger demon before either faction arrived and deliberately left her to absorb the blame. Ming Tian admitted she had underestimated him. Her own combat power had reached around 125 stars with equipment, while Jang Chun's hero ranking still exceeded. She calculated that he either possessed an epic hero or had invested incredible energy into a top excellent hero. Either possibility made him far more dangerous than his public background suggested. Ingman immediately asked again whether she could recruit him as a vassal. Ming Tian realized the entire analysis had been steering toward that question from the beginning. Back on Dragon 9, Jang Chun received the official ranking reward. The excellent chest was useful, but the 200 reputation points mattered more. High reputation could trigger traveling merchants, hidden events, rare employment opportunities, and rewards unavailable through ordinary markets. Then the betting settlement arrived. Jang Chun's 10,000 Spirit Stone wager had captured more than 99% of the winning pool. The payout exceeded 4,752,000 Spirit Stones. His fingers tightened around Dragon 9's scales hard enough to make her glance backward. A 10,000 stone bet had returned hundreds of times its cost because almost everyone else had confidently backed the wrong nobles. Combined with weapon sales and earlier loot, Jang Chun's total assets crossed 5 million Spirit Stones. 2 days earlier, he had needed a loan just to enter the battlefield with the cheapest Lord Heart available. Now he was riding a legendary dragon beside a 200-star empress while controlling millions in liquid upgrade fuel. The transformation felt ridiculous even to him. He allowed himself several minutes to enjoy being rich, before the creation divine stone reminded him how quickly 5 million could disappear. Epic equipment, higher troop souls, infrastructure, techniques, farming systems, and special buildings could burn through the balance faster than any human luxury. One planned investment mattered more than the others. Jang Chun told the Empress he intended to build the Heavenly Sound Pavilion. Her eyes widened because the structure recreated the sect tied to her original world and unlocked the troops attached to her hero template. At full function, it could recruit 9 legendary 9 Heavens Holy Maidens, plus unlimited excellent disciples under the Empress's command bonuses. The promise increased her affection to 91. Jang Chun looked at the millions required and privately calculated that each affection point was becoming more expensive than real estate. He messaged Chuadia afterward and asked whether she was broke yet. Then he offered a loan at deliberately outrageous daily interest. Chuatia answered by sending a screenshot of her new 1 million stone balance. Jang Chun assumed her family had rescued her. She explained that Ingman had simply given her the money after Chuatia called her big sister. Jang Chun stared at the message in silence. He had fought bosses, sold equipment, manipulated markets, survived invasions, and won a massive bet to build his fortune. Chuatia had spoken 2 words and received 1 million spirit stones. Jang Chun swallowed his pride and asked whether Ingman might also need a little brother. On the return flight, Jang Chun stopped at the captured centaur nest and found 6 fresh recruits waiting. He collected them, upgraded their quality with troop souls, and assigned the new excellent centaurs to resource security. The arrangement finally freed his legendary dragons from standing guard over mines that ordinary raiders could not threaten. Dragon 9 landed at the territory shortly afterward. Jang Chun dismissed the combat units to their routines. Dragons to hunting, goddess warriors to training, and the Empress back to cultivation. Then he removed the black-striped tiger corpse from storage and dropped 15 tons of dead epic demon into the town square. The farmers approached with knives and ordinary processing tools because butchering monster corpses had become part of their daily work. Jang Chun stopped them before they touched it. An epic hero's body contained materials far too valuable to process with normal farmer efficiency. Losing half the possible meat, hide, bone, or special organs through crude harvesting would waste more money than the entire territory once possessed. He opened storage and found a normal white recruitment order. The Creation Divine Stone offered the same terrifying ladder it offered for almost everything else. A normal farmer could become better quality for spirit stones, with gold legendary recruitment costing 500,000. 500,000 spirit stones for one farmer sounded deranged even after Jang Chun became a millionaire. Then he looked at the 15-ton epic tiger and decided deranged investments were often the profitable ones. Jang Chun paid the full recruitment cost. The recruitment token turned gold and summoned a middle-aged man with plain clothing, calm eyes, and the posture of someone impossible to impress. The farmer knelt respectfully and greeted his lord without the panic Jang Chun's original workers had shown. Jang Chun immediately liked the attitude. The man had arrived without a personal name, giving Jang Chun another chance to demonstrate his sacred naming talent. He called the legendary recruit Farmer 1. Unlike the Empress, Farmer 1 praised the name sincerely. Jang Chun almost promoted him again for having taste. Then he opened the farmer's attributes and understood why the recruitment order cost 500,000. Farmer 1 was gold legendary quality with 7 stars of combat power at level 1, already stronger in a fight than Jang Chun had been at the same level. Combat was not even his actual purpose. Divine Farmer multiplied gathering, mining, and processing efficiency by 10. His harvest yield was multiplied by 5. Every processed material also carried roughly a 10% chance to increase by 1 quality tier, with legendary quality as the upper limit. A separate model worker trait increased the efficiency of every farmer in Jang Chun's territory by 20%. One recruit had effectively upgraded the economy, labor force, and material processing system at the same time. Jang Chun pointed at the tiger corpse and told Farmer 1 to demonstrate. The legendary farmer studied the body, recognized it as an epic demon hero, and praised his lord for securing such prey. Then green light covered the carcass. Notifications began stacking before the ordinary farmers could finish arranging their tools. Every portion of tiger meat multiplied 5-fold. Every usable tiger bone multiplied 5-fold as well. Hide, special organs, and other valuable materials received the same divine farmer bonus. Some resources upgraded from epic into legendary quality during processing. The famous tiger whip became the most embarrassing example. 5 copies emerged at legendary quality, with a description suggesting extremely profitable uses for adult health and beauty. Jang Chun decided he definitely had no personal need for them. He also decided somebody else would pay an absurd amount of spirit stones for the privilege of proving otherwise. Within a minute, the original corpse had become an enormous inventory of high-tier materials without the waste normal processing would create. Jang Chun estimated that Farmer 1 had already justified his 500,000 stone cost on the first job alone. The economic return changed how Jang Chun thought about future recruitment. Legendary combat troops were spectacular, but a legendary worker multiplied every resource that passed through his hands without needing to fight at all. With the tiger handled, Jang Chun returned to the building he had promised the Empress. The Heavenly Sound Pavilion required 3 specialized epic materials, plus a large energy investment and 1,000 square meters of territory. Those materials were Heavenly Soundwood, Darking Stone, and Stardust Gold. Normal wood and stone were not a problem because the Creation Divine Stone could upgrade them through enough steps. Gold ore was the problem. Jang Chun's map territory did not contain a gold mine. Instead of searching blindly, he decided to purchase information from the hundreds of lords already exploring the zone. He entered the town channel and offered 10,000 spirit stones to the first person who could provide verified coordinates for a gold mine. The moment his name appeared, the discussion stopped being about gold. Rookies began treating Jang Chun like a celebrity after the hero ranking, equipment sales, and impossible territory progression. One person joked that somebody should summon a family member because a god had finally spoken in public chat. Others begged to know what the excellent ranking chest contained, or whether green waters, blue mountains secretly increased luck. A frustrated lord announced that if he could choose again, he would trade his respectable combat talent for Jang Chun's supposedly useless entertainment ability. Several women offered increasingly direct forms of companionship. Other men immediately tried private messaging those women before Jang Chun could respond. Jang Chun ignored the chaos and repeated that he needed a gold mine. Wei Ming correctly guessed the request was probably tied to a building blueprint. Jang Chun confirmed that much without mentioning that the building would recruit legendary troops. Wei Ming asked for Jang Chun's territory coordinates so scouts could search nearby instead of across the entire zone. Jang Chun answered by posting the anywhere door he had received from the treasure chest. Wei Ming nearly lost the thread of the conversation because the one-use teleportation item was worth more than many rookie armies. Ingman appeared in the chat almost immediately and offered 1 million spirit stones to buy it on the spot. The offer was several times higher than the item's normal blue star value. Jang Chun refused because he needed the door more than he needed another million. Ingman accepted the answer, then asked him to sell her any high-tier equipment he was not using. Jang Chun did have dozens of rare and excellent pieces collecting dust because his strongest troops carried better innate gear. He added Ingman as a friend and promised to send a list later. Wei Ming asked to be added as well. Jang Chun added Wei Ming without making the request complicated. His friend list now contained Chuatia, Tu Sinya, Ingman, and Wei Ming. The orphan who entered the battlefield with no clan behind him had built a small but increasingly useful social network in 2 days. Public friend requests flooded in afterward from people claiming shared surnames, forgotten family ties, future marriages, or any connection that might justify being added. Jang Chun considered money one of civilization's most effective social lubricants. Then a lord named He Chi finally answered the original request. He claimed to have discovered a gold mine before and offered to travel there, confirm the location, and provide a photograph. Jang Chun accepted immediately and asked for details in private. The solution seemed suspiciously easy. Chuacha called before Jang Chun could celebrate. Her expression was serious enough to remove any doubt about why she was contacting him. He Chi had participated in the failed Tiger Coalition and belonged to the group that lost heavily by betting on Ingman. Chuatia had heard those same lords discussing revenge against Jang Chun afterward. She warned that the gold mine offer was almost certainly bait. Jang Chun's face immediately brightened with interest. Chuatia had expected concern, not excitement. He repeated the important part back to her. Dozens of angry lords, their heroes, and perhaps thousands of troops might be gathering in one location specifically to wait for him. To Jang Chun, that sounded less like an ambush and more like concentrated energy production. Chuatia stared at him through the communicator as if his brain had violated natural law. She reminded him that the most important quality of a lord was caution. Jang Chun agreed completely and promised not to enter any trap without overwhelming confidence. That answer calmed her enough to end the call. Jang Chun looked toward the sky and privately hoped the trap was real. 10,000 spirit stones for gold mine information was useful. Thousands of hostile troops voluntarily gathering together were worth far more. He Chi's coalition was indeed preparing exactly the scenario Jang Chun wanted. The bankrupt lords had turned their gambling losses into a political story about Jang Chun's arrogance and the unfairness of his wealth. He argued that heaven destroyed people by first making them overconfident. The gold mine sat inside a valley with only 2 practical entrances, giving the coalition a clean way to surround the target after he entered. One participant worried that Jang Chun's hero might be epic. He's hero dismissed the risk because 1,000 troops focusing fire could supposedly kill even legendary opposition through numbers. The group began fantasizing well beyond the original robbery. They calculated Jang Chun's net worth above 5 million spirit stones and imagined using the money to dominate the entire newbie town. From there, the speeches somehow escalated toward overthrowing powerful dynasties and conquering greater territories they had never seen. Somebody even prepared a bowl for a blood oath. Jang Chun would later find the ambition hilarious because several conspirators were effectively broke before planning galactic conquest. The attack plan itself was simpler. Lure Jang Chun into the valley, cut off his arm, partly because battlefield grudges had somehow turned that injury into a fashionable statement. Take his money, equipment, and access to resources. Then kill him so he could not retaliate. Lin Mo attended long enough to understand the plan and refused to join the murder directly. That decision was not morality. He positioned himself roughly 3 kilometers away, with a falcon linked to his excellent hero, and planned to watch both sides destroy each other. If Jang Chun won narrowly, Lin Mo could attack the weakened survivor. If the coalition won narrowly, he could take whatever they had not secured. He considered himself the predator waiting behind 2 other predators. None of them knew Jang Chun already had more than enough strength to treat all 3 layers of the scheme as a single target. 2 hours later, He reached the valley and finished arranging roughly 1,000 troops out of sight around the approaches. He contacted Jang Chun by video while visibly trying to look relaxed. He apologized for the delay and sent an image of a real gold mine guarded by level 12 monsters. Jang Chun made his interest believable by complaining about the distance and asking whether the coordinates were accurate. He eagerly provided them and invited the famous lord to verify the mine personally. Both men ended the call, smiling for completely different reasons. He thought a millionaire had accepted the bait. Jang Chun saw a gold mine, 1,000 hostile troops, and dozens of enemy heroes compressed into one travel destination. He activated the Anywhere door. Cynthia and Giselle crossed first to scan the landing area for immediate threats. Once they signaled clear, Jang Chun entered with the Empress and 10 additional goddess warriors. Farmer 1 and several ordinary farmers followed, because somebody would need to establish production if the mine was successfully captured. He's attention fixed first on the Empress. Her appearance alone would have been difficult to ignore, even if she did not radiate the calm threat of someone who considered armies exercise equipment. Then he noticed 12 golden armored goddess warriors carrying lightning-charged spears. He still relaxed when he realized Jang Chun had brought no centaur chieftains. The public stream from Li Muja's defeat had convinced many lords that the excellent centaurs were Jang Chun's strongest troops. He assumed the golden women were rare bodyguards or decorative elites. In reality, the goddess warriors were the most dangerous regular squad Jang Chun owned outside his legendary dragons. He welcomed Jang Chun respectfully and pointed toward the gold mine several hundred meters inside the valley. Jang Chun thanked him for the work and invited him to accompany the verification team. He almost jumped backward. He claimed he was far too weak to approach level 12 monsters safely and insisted Jang Chun should inspect the location with his own forces. The refusal told Jang Chun exactly how soon the ambush was expected to begin. He let He remain behind and enter the valley. The Empress walked beside him and quietly reported approximately 1,000 low-level troops hiding within several hundred meters. Most had combat power between 10 and 30 stars, with stronger heroes mixed among them. She asked whether she should eliminate the ambushers immediately. Jang Chun said no and held position. The troops were still scattered through prepared positions, making immediate slaughter inefficient. More importantly, Jang Chun wanted them to attack first. Human lords dying in a battlefield conflict could create political consequences once everyone returned to Blue Star. Jang Chun intended to have witnesses, a clear initiating attack, and a defensible record showing that He's coalition chose the battle. He ordered Cynthia to make the upcoming fight against the Mine Guardians look difficult. Cynthia looked personally insulted by the assignment. Jang Chun clarified that she only needed to struggle as much as her warrior pride could tolerate. The Empress quietly called the arrangement entrapment. Jang Chun rejected the label because the ambushers had organized murder before he arrived. In his mind, allowing criminals to finish walking into their own trap still counted as self-defense. Then the Empress tilted her head toward a falcon circling high above the valley. The bird was being controlled remotely through a shared vision technique. Jang Chun immediately understood Lin Mo was watching from outside the main ambush. That gave the coming performance an extra audience. He believed he was setting the trap. Lin Mo believed he was clever enough to profit from whichever side survived. Jang Chun knew about both of them and had arrived with a 200-plus star Empress, 12 epic goddess warriors, and enough resources to escalate further if needed. The layered ambush reminded him of an old proverb about the mantis stalking the cicada while another predator watched from behind. The difference was that every creature in this version had chosen to stand beneath a tree Jang Chun was prepared to burn down. He cracked his knuckles as the team approached the gold mine guardians and told the goddess warriors to begin the show. The goddess warriors turned out to be outstanding suitors and terrible actresses. Abigail dodged an arrow that was never close to hitting her and loudly declared that she had never faced such a difficult battle. Olivia let another attack bounce from her divine armor and quietly asked when they would be allowed to fight for real. Amanda accidentally killed a guardian while trying to look pressured and apologized because the corpse made the performance less convincing. Cynthia ordered everyone to hold on dramatically. Giselle had to remind Amanda that killing 3 enemies while pretending to struggle was not helping the illusion. Jang Chun watched with the expression of a director, discovering his entire cast had skipped rehearsal. The Empress bit her lip to keep from laughing. These women had survived 10,000 years as immortal warriors, yet pretending to be weak was apparently a skill none had ever considered learning. Fortunately, He-Chi became impatient before Lin Mo's falcon could study the performance closely enough to notice every mistake. Troops poured from both entrances of the valley. Human warriors, demon beasts, elves, dwarves, and even rare Zerg hydralisks emerged from prepared positions until the exits disappeared behind bodies. They stopped around 50 meters from Jang Chun's group and formed the encirclement they had been planning for hours. He-Chi stepped out behind the wall of troops with the confidence of someone who believed the story had already ended. He asked whether Jang Chun had expected the betrayal. Jang Chun sighed and admitted there was one thing he genuinely had not expected. He-Chi immediately started smiling in relief. Jang Chun explained that he had not expected He-Chi to spring the trap before collecting the promised 10,000 Spurstone finder's fee. Now the conspirator would receive nothing even if the ambush worked. The smile disappeared from He-Chi's face. Jang Chun's calmness bothered him more than anger would have because people facing certain death usually did not critique the opponent's profit margin. Cynthia chose that moment to continue the performance. She called out that the goddess warriors could barely hold on against the level 12 mine guardians. He-Chi laughed with relief. To him, the statement confirmed that Jang Chun's beautiful golden troops were weaker than the excellent centaurs left at home. Another lord in the coalition openly demanded that the women be handed over as part of the loot. He had never seen troops built like them and cared more about possession than whatever race or history stood behind the armor. Jang Chun looked across the coalition and felt the last reason for restraint disappear. These were not frightened rookies defending themselves from a threat. They had lured him with false information, planned robbery and murder, and were already dividing his subordinates as property. Jang Chun quietly called it a fine night for killing. Then he told Cynthia that if the squad truly could not hold on, they were free to stop holding back. Relief flashed across the commander's face. Cynthia gave the order every goddess warrior had been waiting to hear. The goddess warriors could finally use full power. 12 simultaneous bursts of lightning exploded through the valley. The deliberately restrained auras vanished. Thunder rolled between the canyon walls while divine armor, spears, and bodies lit with power the coalition had never included in its calculations. The level 12 mine guardians surrounding the gold mine died in the middle of their attacks. A fight the goddess warriors had pretended was difficult ended almost instantly when the performance stopped. The Empress watched the transformation and gave Jang Chun a more useful estimate of their real ceiling. At equal levels, extreme physical builds like these could challenge legendary troops despite remaining epic quality. Jang Chun had raised the entire goddess warrior squad to level 7 before using the anywhere door. Cynthia's physical attribute had climbed to roughly 186, following a growth curve comparable to Jang Chun's legendary dragons. Their innate Thunder Divine equipment scaled with level as well, meaning every increase strengthened both warrior and gear together. If Jang Chun ever pushed the goddess warriors into legendary quality, their specialized builds could become even more frightening than his dragons in direct melee. He-Chi had no interest in long-term calculations anymore. Lightning illuminated his face while he tried and failed to form a complete sentence. The lord who had just demanded ownership of the goddess warriors reacted even worse, losing control of his body before the battle had properly begun. Fear gave He-Chi one clear conclusion. If Jang Chun survived the valley, every conspirator involved in the ambush would become a target afterward. Retreat no longer seemed safe because they had already revealed their identities and intentions. He-Chi ordered everyone to charge. The decision was strategically reasonable and tactically hopeless. Dozens of heroes and hundreds of surviving troops rushed toward Jang Chun from multiple directions, trying to overwhelm the small group before the goddess warriors finished reorganizing. The lords who ordered the attack mostly moved backward behind their own soldiers. Jang Chun studied the wave and gave the empress permission to act. She stepped forward and drew the crimson holy word. One smooth motion followed, draw/sheath. Blood arc crossed the valley as a crimson crescent several dozen meters long. The attack traveled roughly 4 feet above the ground, cutting through the front ranks before most archers had reached effective range. Humans, demon troops, hydralisks, rare soldiers, and elite units were split apart along the same line. Hundreds went down from one sword movement. The few arrows launched before impact struck Jang Chun's epic phantom armor and failed to penetrate. A handful of dwarves survived the first sweep for the accidental reason that they were short enough for the main arc to pass above their heads. They stood among the fallen with no idea why biology had just become tactical defense. The Empress returned to Jang Chun's side and dismissed the entire charge as too weak. For several seconds, the valley contained nothing except stunned survivors and the sound of bodies hitting the ground. He stared at the Empress and repeated her title under his breath. He had assumed an epic hero might explain Jang Chun's first-place ranking. What he had just witnessed belonged to a different tier entirely. The goddess warriors finished clearing the mine guardians and took formation around their lord without visible injury. Jang Chun surveyed the surviving coalition. Li Muja had once carried hundreds of thousands of spirit stones, giving Jang Chun a reason to negotiate after destroying his army. These lords had already gambled away most of their liquid wealth before deciding to rob someone richer. Their troops were dying, their heroes were exposed, and their pockets offered almost nothing worth exchanging for another betrayal later. They had one resource left that Jang Chun could still use. The only remaining value they offered was energy. He ordered the goddess warriors to eliminate the remaining attackers and leave no survivors from the ambush force. Cynthia needed only one glance at the clustered, panicking formation to choose the opening technique. She raised her lightning-wrapped spears and called Thundero, while Jang Chun stood untouched at the center of the trap his enemies had built for him.